subscribe, like the video, and, if possible, join Patreon. But if you don't have much money, you can support the channel by watching the novels on euroaudiobooks.com. Remember that you can participate in the polls so that your favorite novel gets published for free.
Water polo. Trap the attacker firmly inside, leaving only one head outside for interrogation. In order to prevent this guy from being dishonest, in the huge amounts of blue water polo, Suche also tied his limbs with water lines. Make it form a big character floating in front of yourself. Say, "Who sent you to attack me?" Looking at the guy in front of him with a bruised nose and swollen face and bloodshot shoulders, Suche stared at him with dark eyes. If I hadn't reacted quickly just now, I'm afraid I would have been shot in the head by a bullet. Facing Suche's questioning, the guy who was firmly controlled by the water polo, even though his nose was bruised and his face was swollen, still looked deathly. Did not say. Facing this stubborn guy, Suche turned his fingers slightly with his palm facing up. In the next second, a vortex suddenly rolled up in the water polo, and then the torrent pierced the attacker's wound bit by bit like a needle. In an instant, the piercing pain made the attacker's eyes widen. It felt like a sharp sewing needle was piercing the bone. Relieved from the violent and dangerous negative emotions, looking at the assailant whose forehead was covered with sweat from the intense pain at this moment, Suche crossed his arms and thought about it. When I encountered this world, I didn't seem to have sinned against anyone, not to mention any enemies. Although compiled in the diary, the parallel world has an enemy of its own, but that's just a fabrication. So, who could it be? I thought about it carefully. There are only 3 diary holders who know that they are compiling the stories: Natasha Romanoff, Nick Fury, Wanda. Moreover, the holder of the diary has no way to tell the contents of the diary to the non-diary holder. And these 3 people can also be ruled out, etc. He raised his head and looked at the guy who was clenching his teeth, and his expression began to twist in pain at this moment. Suche's thinking logic began to deduce in reverse. Don't say it, there seems to be some eyebrows. Observing the painful and distorted expression of this guy, Suche suddenly said, "You should be from HYDRA." As soon as Suche finished speaking, the assailant's expression of pain changed slightly. Seeing the subtle changes in his expression, Suche knew that he had guessed right. Fortunately, this guy is not a Hydra executive or an agent with real professional training. It should be only the HYDRA Common Action Group, that is, members of the so-called cannon fodder level. Otherwise, you won't be cheated by yourself, and your expression will change obviously. Are you the one from Hydra hidden in SHIELD? Staring at the guy in front of him, Suche began to ask word by word. Seeing his surprised expression, Suche nodded and continued. "Oh, it doesn't seem to be the case. I only saw the Wanda Pietro twins today. The twins were supposed to be in Sokovia, but it appeared here at this moment. So, this matter has something to do with them, right?" Looks like I'm right." Carefully observing the guy's expression, Suche folded his arms and said in a low voice, "It's impossible for these twins to come to New York, and it's even more impossible for them to be sent by HYDRA. The only thing that can be explained clearly is that it was brought here by SHIELD, to be precise, under the order of Nick Fury. Don't ask me how I know it. In fact, it's not difficult to guess when you have certain conditions." While speaking, Suche slowly stretched out his hand. The next moment, the huge water polo floating in the air slowly landed, allowing the attacker to look at himself. Looking into this guy's eyes, Suche said with great interest, "As the most inconspicuous pair of twins in the Hydra base in Sokovia, they were personally named and brought here by Nick Fury, the dignified S.H.I.E.L.D. director. You must be very curious why Nick Fury would take a fancy to this pair of siblings. At the same time, you're also worried that their siblings will reveal your identity in Sokovia. And today, Wanda's brother and sister just happened to appear in my coffee shop, and Wanda's eyes were on me the whole time. It seems that she feels very unusual for me. In addition, in that coffee shop, the famous agent Black Widow was also there. So, you feel the danger and think that I am an agent of SHIELD, and I will deliberately approach Wanda so as to induce her to tell your secrets in Sokovia. You even think that I should have been to Sokovia, discovered the unusualness of the Wanda siblings, and came back to report to Nick Fury. That's why he gave the order to let the people of Eschilde bring back the Wanda siblings, right? Seeing this guy's ugly expression, Suche said, "So, you are one of the cleaners?" Chapter 31 Self-Examination. Isn't this the editorial material delivered to your door? Thank you. Leaning on a battered car, Suche looked at the guy trapped in the water prison in front of him. A very sincere thank you. Listening to this tone, I thank you very sincerely. The assailant looked at him incredulously. No, this guy must have been fooled by his own attack and assassination. Thank you to yourself? Actually, I'm a little bloated. Leaning on the car with arms folded, Suche looked at the guy trapped in the water prison in front of him and said, "From the time I got the first ability, I felt that I was already very strong. After all, after a common person accidentally obtains a super ability, the feeling of swelling in his heart is unavoidable." To put it simply, it's the same mentality as the nouveau riche who suddenly cheated on his wealth and wanted to immediately spend lavishly on retaliatory consumption. My mentality has also changed. Saying that, Suche spread his hands with a smile. To be honest, I was just a common person before, and it's normal to have this kind of mentality. After all, I haven't received professional training. But fortunately, that shot you just woke me up, reminding me that what I'm in now is the terrifying Marvel world. If this ability is true, although it is relatively strong compared to those guys who destroy the world at every turn, the current me is nothing. And when he looked at the assailant who wanted to say something, but his mouth was tightly sealed by water, Suche said with emotion, "The most important thing is that my inflated psychology was fortunately not exposed and was not discovered by Natasha Romanoff and Nick Fury. Otherwise, I'm afraid they will be aware of what I edited. One is the Black Widow, who has received rigorous training from the Red House, and the other is the guy who is known as the King of Agents. Any flaw in their eyes will be infinitely magnified. Fortunately, your shot made me understand that I am just a lucky ant before I have gained absolute strength." At this point of introspection, Suche's palm slowly shrunk. The next moment, the spherical water prison began to slowly twist and spread, and the attacker's skin also began to become dry and brown at a speed visible to the naked eye. I'm feeling the changes taking place in their bodies. The attackers looked at Suche in horror. "Seems to be asking what you did." However, I saw Suche put his index finger to his mouth and made a hissing motion. The water in an adult's body accounts for about 70%. In other words, I can easily turn my enemy into a mummified corpse. Definitely, this is the first time I have manipulated. Let's take it as a reward and thank you for letting me wake up. Don't worry, there aren't any cameras in this parking lot, so you'll be a respectable mummified corpse. Hearing the assailant's terrified expression, he was obviously in a water prison with huge amounts of water, but his body's dehydration was rapidly forming. Suche leaned back on the car that was pierced by the water arrow and was now riddled with holes. Say thank you. This is not murder. The other point is that I have been thinking about how to gain a sense of presence. After all, although there were only 3 diary holders at first, the number is likely to increase in the future. So before that, I have to start my name and get my sense of existence. In this way, the people behind will be fooled. In the beginning, I was always looking for an opportunity, but now, this opportunity was sent by you personally. So naturally, I want to thank you very sincerely. Oh, I seem to be talking too much. Well, in fact, there is no way to do it. This is the first time to kill someone. You have to do a psychological construction for yourself. Listening to Suche's rambling words, the assailant looked at Suche with despair, and his body began to shrink rapidly. Finally, the last touch of color in the eyes disappeared. The whole person turned into a shriveled and skinny corpse in baggy clothes and brown as a whole. Call. He let out a long sigh of relief. Looking at the mummy in the water dungeon, Suche blinked slightly. In the next second, the water prison quickly evaporated and disappeared, and the shriveled corpse fell directly to the ground. Tisk, if the pyramids had this technology thousands of years ago, there would be mummies all over the world now. He glanced at the corpse on the ground. Suke got up and left. Well, in the future, you can't talk so much when facing the enemy. This doesn't fit the persona I described in my diary. Definitely, This is the first time I have truly turned a person into a mummy. So, in fact, it was just a matter of psychological construction for myself just now. After all, turning a living person into a mummy is such a thing, huh? It seems that there is not much feeling. That's fine, at least a shot just now made him sober again. Well, you can use this as a raft when you go home and compile your diary later. Let the edited story be more real and safer. So, is this a surprise delivered to the door for the follow-up to compile the story by yourself? So Long said, well, why not? Chapter 32, How Can We Not Sacrifice a Major Event of Galactus? The first mission of the system, a big Marvel event. Note, this mission is a continuous one-time mission. After the mission is completed, you will receive generous rewards. At the same time, the system will not issue any other missions in any form. Mission notes. Every superhero will have one or even several old enemies and fetters in his life, such as Batman to Joker, such as Steve Rogers and Winter Soldier. As a person who already has a super ability, you also need to create an old enemy for yourself so as to secure the status of the parallel world superhero compiled by the diary. It should also be noted that as a time traveler, how can it not trigger a major Marvel event and sacrifice a Galactus? Mission requirements. A qualitative change caused by continuous missions. When the host defeats the old enemy, and when the host's strength reaches a certain level, it will lead to the planet Devourer. Mission assistance. Since the mission is a one-time mission, the host can personally compile the enemy, name, appearance, ability, identity, etc. And every time the enemy is defeated, the host will get a top-level ability, and the diary holder will increase by 1. Back home, Suche was about to start compiling the fourth diary. Suddenly, I saw the hidden task prompted by the system. Open the hidden tasks column, and you will see these hidden tasks as mentioned above. Definitely, the task is not mandatory. You can choose whether to accept this hidden task. Look at the top of the taskbar, this so-called task. Suche felt more like a benefit from the system. At the very beginning, I wrote in my diary that I had an old enemy. But now, this so-called enemy can completely edit it himself. That is to say, as strong as I want this old enemy to be, this old enemy will be as strong as possible. No matter how difficult you want to make him, he will be a headache. Even the ability of this old enemy was compiled by himself. Isn't this equivalent to working part-time as a dealer while fighting the landlord's cards? 2 kings and 4 twos are issued to themselves, and 4 more aces and 4 KS are issued to themselves, all of which are bullying. However, look at the things marked on the system. Suche pondered slightly. Indeed, every superhero has a nemesis. Once the old enemy compiled by himself comes true, it will not only make the diary holder believe in his identity. You can also indirectly realize your identity as a parallel world superhero. After all, some words are uttered by the villain's old enemy, and let the diary holder hear it with his own ears. Far more convincing than what I compiled in my diary. The most important thing is that every time you defeat the enemy you created, you can get a top-level ability. That is to say, I can not only grab the wool of my old enemy, can you also use the villain you created to make the diary holder trust the content of the diary? And at the same time, you can squeeze the diary holder's wool? Kill 2 birds with 1 stone. As for the last planet Devourer, the matter of sacrificing Galactus. Well, this is triggered when one's own strength reaches a certain level. So don't worry about it now. By the way, when the time comes, you can also create this villain yourself. Let him say it himself. Entangle himself in the parallel world, and then change his identity into the vanguard of the planet Devourer. TSK. Seeing the hidden mission of the system, Suche instantly felt better. Definitely, every time you defeat an enemy, you will get a top-level ability. This is not enough to defeat him a few times. How many times to squeeze the wool? When contestants and judges and notaries are all my people, how can you lose? Thinking of this, Suche pondered for a moment, then turned on the diary editing system and started editing. New York, 3 blocks from Suche's apartment. I've seen you before. You're the waiter at the Teo Wallen Cafe. Watch as Natasha Romanoff opens the door and walks in, smiling and asking what she and Pietro want for dinner. Wanda reacted immediately. So, You are with that SHIELD? Yes. Seeing Wanda and Pietro surprised, then revealed a vigilant expression. Natasha Romanoff took off his coat and hung it on the hanger. I was originally one of the members of S.H.I.E.L.D. Working as a waiter in that coffee shop is just a way for me to decompress. And didn't Nick Fury tell you that I'm going to be your twin's guardian starting today? With that said, Natasha Romanoff came in front of Wanda and Pietro. The smile was full of tenderness. Don't worry, I'm not here to spy on you or persecute you, but to protect you as a parent. After all, you're only 14 years old now. Although you are more mature than your peers, you still need a guardian. You can call me Sister Natasha Romanoff, or you can just call me Natasha Romanoff. When I have no tasks, your daily life, including going to school and studying, pocket money for living expenses, etc., are all taken care of by me, the guardian. After you reach the age of 18, if you want to leave or choose how you want to live your life, this will be your freedom. Speaking of which, under the vigilant eyes of Wanda and Pietro, Natasha Romanoff raised her hand and gently stroked the heads of the two people. Don't worry, I won't treat you as children. After all, you're already 14 years old. However, I hope you can regard me as a trustworthy older sister. I will do my best to protect you and take on what a real sister should do. Speaking of this, Natasha Romanoff seemed to have thought of something, and then smiled at the two people. Oh, yes, although you are an adult at the age of 18, you can escape my protection, but you are not allowed to drink before the age of 21. Otherwise, you will break the law. After speaking, Natasha Romanoff looked at Wanda and Pietro. So, my new siblings, what do you want for dinner today? Chapter 33. The fourth diary begins. Wanda, don't die. You also have. Looking at the black gold diary in Natasha Romanoff's hand, Wanda said subconsciously. Hearing Wanda's voice, Natasha Romanoff turned her head and found that Wanda, who was wearing pajamas at the moment, was holding the same black gold diary in her hand. Come and sit. Seeing Wanda looking at him in surprise, Natasha Romanoff smiled and waved to her. After Wanda walked over, Natasha Romanoff smiled and said, No wonder you went to Teowalan Cafe this morning. So, I went to see Sue. Listening to what Natasha Romanoff said, Wanda didn't answer, but asked instead, So, the purpose of your working as a waiter at Teowalan Cafe is also to get close to Sue? On the one hand, he stretched out his hand and hugged Wanda, who was sitting next to him. It's like a big sister hugging her younger sister. I just felt Wanda's uncomfortable and tense body, Natasha Romanoff said with a smile. On the one hand, on the other hand, I really want to confirm whether what Sue wrote in this black gold diary is true. What's the conclusion? Looking up at Natasha Romanoff, Wanda asked seriously. I tested him 3 times, and the conclusion is that I don't doubt much about what's written in the diary now. It's you, Wanda, who have to go to a new school tomorrow to welcome a new life. It's almost 10 o'clock. Why are you still up? It really seems like a big sister is caring about her younger sister. At least, Wanda didn't detect any trace of malice from Natasha Romanoff. On the contrary, there is a feeling of a parent. It doesn't matter whether it's pretending or something else. Even though she was still wary of Natasha Romanoff at this moment, Wanda still didn't push away Natasha Romanoff's hand on her shoulder. He just said softly, I just changed the environment and I can't sleep. After adding the 4th diary, I want to read it before going to sleep. Then let's watch together. Rubbing Wanda's head, Natasha Romanoff said with a smile. Good. Seeing Natasha Romanoff's gentle smile, Wanda pursed her lips, then nodded slightly. This is my first month in this world, and I find that many things have changed since I came here. I actually met Wanda and Pietro at Teowalan Cafe. I don't understand why Wanda and Pietro are here. According to the timeline, they should be in Sokovia at this moment. Who brought them here? Nick Fury? No, he probably doesn't know Wanda Pietro by now. So, what happened? Seeing this, Natasha Romanoff whispered to Wanda. Nick Fury is the one who ordered you and Pietro to be brought back. He is also one of the holders of the Black Gold Diary. That guy from SHIELD with the blindfold? Listening to Natasha Romanoff's explanation, Wanda remembered the black marinated egg. That's right, he's the director of S.H.I.E.L.D. Smiling and rubbing Wanda's head, Natasha Romanoff said softly. After getting the diary back then, all the names SHIELD recorded in the diary have been paid attention to. That includes you and Pietro. And you and Pietro are the point. Facing Natasha Romanoff's words, Wanda nodded understandingly. Because the me in that parallel world is Sue's wife, right? So, relatively speaking, I should have the greatest influence on Sue among all the people. No wonder that man named Nick Fury would send his sister with a cold expression to bring me and Pietro back from Sokovia. I didn't expect the real reason to be like this. After knowing the real reason why he and Pietro were brought back by S.H.I.E.L.D., Wanda's originally vigilant heart relaxed. Just, should I tell Natasha Romanoff about the Hydra base in Sokovia? After all, it can be seen from the diary records. Natasha Romanoff should be a good guy. At least, Natasha Romanoff is a good guy in Sue's pen. Seeing that Wanda is very clever, he understood what he said. Natasha Romanoff continued with a smile. Another point is that Sue doesn't know about this matter. He doesn't know. The diary he wrote will be seen by us. That's why I don't understand why you and Pietro are here. Should I tell him then? Looking up at Natasha Romanoff, Wanda asked very seriously, is this considered peeping at Sue's privacy? It's a bit immoral. After knowing that the diary written by her future husband is not only seen by herself, Wanda felt uncomfortable for no reason. That's my future husband, whether it's from a parallel world or not. His future wife can read his diary, others. I can't tell him I tried. The look on Wanda's face naturally couldn't be hidden from Natasha Romanoff. From what Wanda just said, Natasha Romanoff could hear that Wanda felt slightly uncomfortable. When I was a waiter in a coffee shop, I wanted to test whether the owner of his diary knew that the diary he wrote would be seen by us. However, it's like the diary holder cannot disclose the diary and the contents written in the diary, like non-diary holders. I have no way to tell him by any means, and really, it's important for us to read between the lines of his words. What's going to happen in the future? After all, the parallel world he lives in has been destroyed if the future of our world doesn't want to be destroyed. Just make some preparations in advance. All right. Hearing Natasha Romanoff's serious words, Wanda nodded in understanding. It's like I can't tell Pietro this black gold diary and what's written in it. But after thinking about it, Wanda suddenly raised her head and looked at Natasha Romanoff. Then when you want to work as a waiter in a coffee shop, Sue should have recognized you right away. After all, your name was written in the last diary. It also said that you have the best relationship with him, or the one with the most different feelings. That's right. Without hiding anything, Natasha Romanoff nodded. He recognized me from the first moment he saw me. I know he knows me, but he doesn't know that I know he knows me. It's a twisty sentence, but Wanda can understand it, because she also knew that Sue knew her, but he didn't know that she knew that he knew herself. Nodding his head, he continued to read the diary. Wanda really wants to know about Sue's future husband in this parallel world. How would you describe the feeling of seeing yourself for the first time today? Oh, wait. Natasha Romanoff and Nick Fury can also see the journal. Doesn't that mean that they have already seen all the short stories written by Sue and himself? Mommy, this is too. Please, Sue, please don't write any embarrassing things in the diary. Otherwise, I will die in front of this Natasha Romanoff I just met. Chapter 34. Nick Fury gets serious. I was very excited when I saw Wanda and Pietro. Even though I have seen too much in my superhero career for more than 10 years, I have become extremely calm. But the moment I saw Wanda, I was still a little upset. She is very young and immature, but she still looks like her. I know this is Wanda, the wife I have been thinking about day and night. However, it is not the real her. See this sentence written in the diary. Wanda breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, I didn't write too much in the diary. Then what kind of plot? Otherwise, I would have died too much. But looking at the words, he is not the wife he thinks about day and night. Wanda pursed her lips subconsciously. What I saw during the day came to my mind. That person who looked very handsome and tough, with a melancholy temperament and a faint sense of vicissitudes between his brows. The whole person seems to be extremely mysterious and full of security, which makes people understand Sue Che's desire to explore. And my subconscious mind has decided that this is my future husband in the parallel world. After seeing this sentence again, it is Wanda who is in her youth and who likes to dream and dream. Inexplicably jealous of himself in that parallel world. It's actually nothing. Wanda, who was quietly observing, watched the subtle movement of Wanda pursing her lips because of that sentence in the diary. Natasha Romanoff said with a smile, "You and his wife and the world he lives in are originally peers. It's just that his world has been destroyed, although you and that Wanda are not alone. However, I can feel that Sue treats you differently. No matter what is recorded in the diary, he has already seen too many big scenes, and he has become extremely calm, and he is a little upset. The moment he saw you at Teowalan Cafe, excitement flashed in his eyes. In addition, his world has been destroyed, so if he really has an idea, then there is nothing he can't do." Listening to Natasha Romanoff's words, Wanda pursed her lips slightly. Then he smiled and said, "Who cares if he is upset or not? I have nothing to do with him. I read this diary as if I was bored reading a novel, so I don't care." Watching Wanda talking and not caring at all, Natasha Romanoff just smiled and didn't continue to say anything. Although when she was her age, she spent time in the Red House. However, Natasha Romanoff is still very clear about what girls of this age are thinking. Don't look at her being stubborn now. But if she really doesn't care, she won't take Pietro to Teowalan Cafe immediately after being sent to New York. Don't you want to see what your husband looks like in the parallel world? But Natasha Romanoff really hopes that Wanda can be with Suche in the future. First, it can reduce the anxiety and pressure in Suche's heart. Secondly, as mentioned in Suche's diary, this world has not really opened and has not yet kicked off. We need a superhero like Suche, who has more than 10 years of Avenger career experience and knows the future. Definitely, if Wanda doesn't want it, then forget it. I don't want to force Wanda to do something. Otherwise, judging from Suche's unusual affection for Wanda, it is easy to have the opposite effect. Focus your attention on the diary again. Soon, Natasha Romanoff, who had a smile on her face, suddenly became serious. "In the parking lot when I came back, I was attacked. In the beginning, I didn't know who the attacker was until I killed the attacker. It was discovered that the attacker's eyes were red, and he seemed to be a humanoid creature without any reason under the control of others. Seeing this attacker, I have a bad premonition. Sure enough, after my inspection, I found something was wrong. It's the same as the group of guys that once appeared in my world. This is the first time I think of a person, or should I say a guy with a human appearance, Olivia Temple. That is my biggest enemy in the parallel world, a guy who has been entangled with me for more than 10 years. I don't know where this Olivia Temple, nicknamed the Balrog, came from that planet, but I know that every time this guy who claims to be the messenger of the god appears, a group of evil people will be infected and become a monster who is not afraid of death and only obeys his orders. The attack on me this time is not like an assassination, but more like a Balrog. Olivia Temple, who claims to be the messenger of the gods, is greeting me. Tell me that my old opponent, who has been entangled with me for more than 10 years, has also come to this world." Seeing this, Natasha Romanoff had a serious expression. After talking to Wanda, he walked aside and picked up his phone to call Nick Fury. As soon as the call was connected, Natasha Romanoff said directly, "Director, are you resting there?" Instead of calling Nick Fury Nick, he called him Director. Let Nick Fury know between a title, "This is a business." "Not yet. I'm also looking at the diary that was just updated." Nick Fury has already blocked the entire office. After Natasha Romanoff's words, he said, "I saw Suche wrote in his diary that he was attacked when he returned. Unfortunately, we didn't monitor him immediately, so we didn't notice that he was attacked." Yes, Nick Fury did not send someone to follow and monitor Suche. Although this is very inconsistent with Nick Fury's action style. But who made Suche a superhero with a dozen years of Avengers experience? If he rashly sends someone to spy on him, he will definitely find out directly. Another most important point is, after Nick Fury saw in Suche's diary that SHIELD was not safe. Although it feels ridiculous to have doubts in my heart, but even if there is even a little doubt, Nick Fury will investigate. And once his absurd guess is true. So what if someone was sent to spy on them and was discovered by those guys? I'm afraid it will have very bad effects. More importantly, Nick Fury has already regarded Suche as a whole card that he can use. Carol, who is far away at the other end of the vast universe, cannot come back now. Then Suche can take on one of his cards. Should I go to that parking lot now and check? Hearing Nick Fury's words, Natasha Romanoff immediately said, I am now just 3 streets away from Sue's apartment. I can rush there immediately. Not for the time being. The more important matters related to Sue, or the future of our world, the more cautious we must be. Listening to Natasha Romanoff's voluntary request, Nick Fury had a serious expression, but without any hesitation. I've already asked Hill to lead people over there. Now, make a decision and discuss after reading the second half of the diary. Also, how are the twins Wanda doing now? Chapter 35 Diary. Why didn't Ancient One Mage appear? Hey, why are you still up so late? Pietro, who came out of another bedroom and wanted to go to the bathroom, suddenly found that the light in the living room was still on. When I came to the living room, I saw Wanda and Natasha Romanoff snuggled up on the sofa at the moment. Watching Natasha Romanoff put one arm around Wanda, and Wanda lost the vigilance she had when she first met Natasha Romanoff this afternoon. He couldn't help asking. At the same time, Pietro quietly gave Wanda a look. Tell her to be more vigilant. Don't get too close to this SHIELD agent. After all, there is no chance of escaping from their claws. Better to be careful. God knows that these guys are very nice to themselves and Wanda at the moment. But who can guarantee that they won't persecute their siblings in the blink of an eye? Looking into Pietro's eyes, Natasha Romanoff knew he hadn't fully approved of himself or endorsed by S.H.I.E.L.D. But that's okay, Natasha Romanoff understands. After all, if I put myself in my shoes, I'm afraid I will be more vigilant than Pietro. But Wanda gave him a reassuring smile after receiving Pietro's eyes. Go to bed now, Natasha Romanoff, and I have something to whisper. Pietro couldn't talk about the diary, so Wanda just made an excuse. Why does it have to be so late? Oh, if I tell you to go to bed quickly. Why do you care so much about the whispers between us girls? Putting on an air of a sister, Wanda signaled Pietro to go to bed quickly. Looking at Pietro, he was a little suspicious in hesitation. Wanda picked up the pillow from the sofa and threw it on Pietro. Really, the bigger the more rebellious. I don't even listen to my sister's words. Okay. I'll go to the bathroom and sleep. Seeing Wanda's angry appearance, Pietro had no choice but to raise his hands and surrender. Well, I have to talk to Wanda tomorrow. I can't trust him too much. After all, as Baron Strucker of the Sokovia base said, SHIELD is not a very nice place. Watch Pietro go to the bathroom. Wanda whispered to Natasha Romanoff. Pietro doesn't know about the diary, so naturally he doesn't know why SHIELD brought our siblings here. So, I can understand. Holding Wanda with a smile on her face, Natasha Romanoff comforted. Don't think so much and don't explain carefully. I am the guardian of you and Pietro. You can treat me like a sister. And this place is also your home. Wanda, who knew what happened, smiled at Natasha Romanoff when she heard what Natasha Romanoff said. Home. But the home of myself and Pietro had disappeared as early as in that damn attack. By the way, Sue said in his diary that he was attacked in the parking lot on his way back, and the other party should have attacked him on purpose. So Natasha Romanoff, will SHIELD come forward to help Sue? It seemed like he was thinking of that phone call that Natasha Romanoff had just made. Wanda immediately asked seriously. In Wanda's view, no matter how strong a person is, how strong can he be? And S.H.I.E.L.D. This is an existence that even the powerful Hydra base with tank fighters and Baron Strucker dare not provoke. Definitely will. Looking at Wanda's serious eyes, Natasha Romanoff was not disappointed because Wanda didn't call her sister. She knew she wanted to open up the hearts of the twins who had lost their parents as children. It is something that cannot be rushed. It's just that you should have seen what was written in the first 2 diaries. Sue doesn't trust SHIELD, or rather, Sue doesn't trust some people in SHIELD now. The only people he could trust were me and Nick Fury and Hill and a few others. Having said that, Natasha Romanoff patted Wanda lightly. However, even so, once Sue needs it, then SHIELD will fully cooperate with him and help him. After all, Nick Fury, the director of SHIELD, takes Sue very seriously. Hearing what Natasha Romanoff said, Wanda breathed a sigh of relief. Although, either Sue wrote in his diary or Baron Strucker said SHIELD was not to be trusted. But, after all, SHIELD seems to be pretty good. With such a helper, Sue shouldn't be worried about that bad guy called Olivia Temple, right? Watching Pietro come out of the bathroom, then with a look of concern, he finally returned to his room. Wanda and Natasha Romanoff leaned together and continued to read the diary. I didn't expect that after my parallel world was destroyed, it wasn't just me who came to this world. However, because of this attacker, the appearance of this guy who was polluted by Olivia Temple's spirit reminded me of a very bold guess I once made. That is, this guy who has the nickname of Balrog but claims to be the messenger of the gods should not be an alien from other galaxies in the universe like Thor. It should be a guy from a different dimension. After all, when the Earth I was on was destroyed, my universe seemed to be completely annihilated. Planets can be destroyed, and the universe can collapse. But spaces of different dimensions do exist. This is confirmed by the Time Administration. It's just that I haven't figured out what the sentence he said when he was fighting with Olivia Temple. I am the end of the fate of the god he believed in. What this sentence expresses, and why it will be me. Well, it seems that my fateful entanglement with him, and even with the so-called god behind him, is still going on. In the past, I had Steve and Tony around me to help. Tony can use the Stark Industrial Satellite for the first time to help me monitor all the jewelry stores in New York. Steve will fight with me with the shield. Just like once, I helped Tony and Steve fight their old enemies together. But this time, it's only me. Maybe I can go to Natasha Romanoff and Nick Fury. After all, she is working as a waiter in my Teowalan cafe to experience life. But should I really involve them? Will they believe me, an Avenger from a parallel world? I'm not sure. And SHIEL. D isn't trustworthy right now. I don't want to reveal my identity yet. Another point is whether it is my world or this parallel world. When Olivia Temple, an enemy of a different dimension, appeared, why didn't the Asgardian who claimed to be the Earth's reality dimension, the Supreme Mage, Ancient One, not intervene? Is it because the Balrog can't deal a devastating blow to the Earth like Nightmare and Dormammu, so she doesn't bother to take care of it? Or because Ancient One Mage knows that once the Balrog is completely killed, then the so-called god behind Olivia Temple will come to Earth? I don't know, but I still choose to believe in that Supreme Mage Ancient One. Perhaps, as Olivia Temple once said, he and I are natural enemies. Chapter 36, A Troubled Earth. Nick Fury, confused, appeared. Inside SHIELD. Looking at the fourth diary, new characters appeared again. Nick Fury opened his private record without any hesitation. In this private record, the characters that appear in the first 3 diaries are recorded. The record is divided into 3 parts. The confirmed characters are Tony Stark, Steve Rogers, Bruce Banner, Colin Tay Barton. Then 2 new characters were added, Wanda and Pietro. In the undetermined column are Thor, Loki, Ant-Man. The column for the villain reads, Kong the Conqueror. Celestial Group, Ultron, compared with the 4th diary. Nick Fury started adding names again. Added Olivia Temple, Sue Che's so-called old enemy, to the villains column. That's right, Nick Fury has subconsciously determined that Sue Che is the superhero. Therefore, his old enemy is naturally the supervillain. At the same time, there were a few more names in the villain column. Dormammu, Nightmare. After recording the names of villains who threaten the Earth, Nick Fury hesitated for a moment, and then wrote the name of the Supreme Mage Ancient One on the undetermined column. At the same time, the words of the real Dimension Asgardian were added after the name of Ancient One. After finishing these, Nick Fury began to think, who is the Asgardian in the real dimension, the Supreme Mage Ancient One? Judging from the tone of voice recorded in Sue Che's diary, he seems to respect this Supreme Mage very much. Asgardian himself can understand. What does the dimension of reality mean? This refers to the dimensional space where the Earth exists. In addition, the title of Ancient One Mage is Supreme Mage, so it can be understood that there are many mages under him. As the Master of S.H.I.E.L.D., Nick Fury knows that there are not only superpowers on Earth, but also a large number of aliens. It is also included in S.H.I.E.L.D. There are even vampires and legendary. But now, there is another group of mage. And looking at the diary written by Sue Che, this group of mage should be led by the Supreme Mage Ancient One, has been silently guarding the Earth. So what's the difference between mage and necromancer? After all, I have come into contact with people like necromancers and witches. What was written in Su Che's diary should not be people like witches. TSK. It seems that it is not only Aegis and Spear who guard the Earth. Now, there's another mage team. Really. More and more interesting. Come to think of it, Nick Fury slid private records to big events. The so-called big events are the big events extracted and analyzed by Nick Fury in Su Che's diary. Including the records in the diary, the beginning of this world was the kidnapping of Tony Stark, Steve Rogers and Winter Soldier, Hydra event, and the Ultron event. The Conqueror Khan united with the Celestial Group to destroy the Earth event. After thinking about it, Nick Fury recorded the incident between Su Che and Olivia Temple, the Balrog, who claims to be the messenger of God. At the same time, the events of Supreme, Mage, Ancient One, Dormammu, and Nightmare were recorded. Looking at just 4 diaries, so many events are recorded. Nick Fury leaned back on the seat and shook his head helplessly. What a disaster-ridden Earth indeed. There are only 4 diaries, and I already know so much, including the destruction of the Earth. An inexplicable sense of urgency arises spontaneously. It seems that I have to speed up the speed of forming Avengers. I don't know when Steve Rogers, the legendary hero, will be discovered. At the same time, the parking lot recorded in Su Che's diary. Sir, only 1 bullet casing and a pistol were found at the scene. Judging from the movement trajectory of the bullet casing, it should be used by the attacker. The SHIELD agent in charge of investigating the scene reports to Maria Hill standing in front of a battered car. Other than that, no traces of the use of thermal weapons, including firearms, were found. In addition, the corpse on the ground is obviously a mummy, and judging from the dryness and dehydration, it should be relatively old and well-preserved. It's like a new one. However, the specific age of the mummy needs to be brought back for retesting. As for this car, looking at the simple analysis report in his hand, the SHIELD agent said, Sir, the car body is riddled with holes, which looks like it was left when it was pierced by bullets. But according to the file size analysis of the bullet hole, it should not be a firearm of any model. Listening to the analysis of the investigators she brought over, Maria Hill nodded. Is there surveillance around? No, sir. This parking lot has been built for more than 10 years, and although there are many apartments nearby. But very few people use this car park, so there is no surveillance facility in the surrounding area. Speaking of which, the SHIELD inspector hesitated for a moment. Explain. Looking at the hesitation of the inspectors, Maria Hill said directly, Sir, based on the detection of the vehicle that was attacked, we found that the vehicle was penetrated. Ordinary bullets simply cannot penetrate the vehicle directly with every shot. At the same time, there is no second bottom shell in the entire parking lot, and we have also used a detection machine to analyze some water in the gaps between vehicles. It's as if the car was riddled with holes because it was penetrated by very thin weapons made of water. However, I always feel that this test is too bizarre, not whether water can cause such a large destructive power. After all, when the water is compressed to the extreme, its power is terrifying. But to achieve this effect, I'm afraid, listening to what the inspector said, Maria Hill nodded. File, bring the car and the mummy back to SHIELD for detailed analysis. Yes, sir. After hearing Maria Hill's order, SHIELD inspectors begin execution immediately. Chapter 37 Hill's analysis. Su Che can destroy the country and the city. In the desert, in a certain cave. If you don't even have a chance to live, then there's no point in talking about anything. Past the mashed potatoes to Tony Stark. Looking at Tony, who was looking sluggish at the moment, Ethan said with a smile, They won't let me go. As a result, Tony Stark was not in the mood to eat the mashed potatoes that Ethan handed over. Thinking back to the day, those damn guys hung themselves upside down and immersed themselves in the water again and again. This painful torture made Tony Stark unable to lift any spirits. You're right. They won't let you go. Picking up the mashed potatoes in his bowl, Ethan pushed his glasses. For them, those who are useful live. Those who are not useful are killed, and they are thrown into the desert without even needing to be buried. So if you want to keep going, you want to wait for the miracle of rescue to happen. Then I suggest that you'd better dismiss the idea. I admit that you are rich and know many people of high status. But this is a desert, and the vast desert is extremely secretive. I guess you will die before they find you. Speaking of this, Ethan suddenly looked up at Tony Stark and said, "Why don't you tell me that your first girlfriend is a honey badger agent? Anyway, Chang'e is very lonely in the desert, so it's better to have a chat." Listening to Ethan's words, Tony Stark lowered his head and kept stirring the mashed potatoes in the iron bowl with a spoon. Out of the corner of his eye, he saw the car battery connected to his body. After thinking for a while, he suddenly raised his head and looked at Ethan. "What if we want to rely on our own strength to escape? Then I suggest you hold on and live every day. Wait until the patience of those guys is exhausted. You're agreeing to help them make the Jericho missile and maybe survive for an extra month or two." Listening to Tony Stark talk like a dream, Ethan scooped a spoonful of mashed potatoes and said while eating, "If you can help me, Ethan, then I'll have a way to get the two of us out of this damn place." Staring at Ethan in front of him with scorching eyes, this is the only person he can trust in this damn place. At the same time, in a temporary tent in the desert. "Sir, how long are we going to last here?" After spitting out the sand in his mouth, SHIELD agent complained to Phil Coulson. "Sir, although this is not the jurisdiction of our shield, but to save a Tony Stark, you don't need to mobilize any more power. We have enough people, and sir, you have also seen that this group of people tortured Tony Stark a lot during the day. It's been more than a month. I'm worried that if this continues, this Tony Stark, who has never experienced this, will not be able to persist." Hearing what the team members said, Phil Coulson shook his head. "Wait for the order. Our order is that if Tony Stark's life is not in danger, then everything depends on him. This is an order from Mr. Director." After finishing speaking, Phil Coulson couldn't help spitting. In this windy and sandy place, it's hard not to eat a mouthful of sand. Listening to Phil Coulson, the players shrugged. The officer said so they can only continue to eat sand and blow cold wind here. Watching the players leave, Phil Coulson hesitated for a while. Then he took out his mobile phone and called Nick Fury. "Shield inside Nick Fury's office. Keep waiting. Don't worry about the rest." Listening to Phil Coulson's inquiry on the other end of the phone, Nick Fury decisively asked him to continue guarding there with his people. As for whether Tony Stark can escape, and whether he can become the superhero recorded in Suche's diary, Nick Fury is very confident now. It's not that Nick Fury now trusts 100% what's written in the diary. It's the members of Phil Coulson's team. Isn't it just his back card for Tony Stark? Anyway, as long as Tony Stark's life is not in danger, let him make trouble on his own first. Even if it is a bit of hardship, as long as you can come back alive, then it is the best explanation for Ms. Page. After hanging up the phone, Nick Fury looked at the report analysis sent by Maria Hill. "You suggest raising Sue's danger level to the most advanced?" "Yes, Nick." Facing Nick Fury's inquiry, Maria Hill said seriously, "Although I don't know if this is all the abilities of that Suche or a single ability. But he alone can turn a living attacker into a mummified corpse. And the fact that you can use the power of water at will to turn an intact car into a riddle. I thought he was very dangerous. After all, water is everywhere in life, which means that there are weapons he can use everywhere. Even he was originally a humanoid weapon." Speaking of this, Maria Hill's expression remained unchanged. "And from the fact that he can turn a living attacker into a mummy. As long as he is willing, then anyone who faces him has no chance to react. Unless it's a robot, an adult's body is more than 70% water. This is equivalent to killing a city or even a country at any time if he wants, although it is not certain, since he can use the moisture in the human body to turn it into a mummy. Then is it possible that he can also use the moisture contained in the air? If this conjecture is correct, then, Nick, I think you should know how dangerous he is." Chapter 38: Plant mushroom eggs on Suche if necessary. Maria Hill has a point. In fact, if Suche really wanted to, then as long as you appear in front of him, it doesn't matter whether it's the army or others. Suche can destroy it immediately. The power of water is soft, but equally terrifying. Suche can use a drop of water at will to make a car full of holes. So what if Suche wants to and fully exerts his true power? How much moisture is there in the air? How much water is there on Earth? When it comes to harm, Suche has the ability to flood the city or even flood the earth. Definitely, it's not like Suche is invincible now. That's just the level of danger. Unless Suche hides directly in the deep sea, a single mushroom egg can turn Suche into ashes. One bullet could end Suche's life even without precaution. Etc. When Suche acquired this ability, the water pressure, breathing, and even resistance of the seabed did not exist for Suche. Does that mean that Suche is invincible as long as he is in the bottomless sea? After all, even the explosion of a mushroom egg cannot harm Suche at the bottom of the water. TSK, the false Aquaman, who can only use the trident to stop the water riot. Then he was tied up with a lasso of mantra and spoke the shameful truth. The real Aquaman can transform the moisture in the air into a huge amounts of tsunami with just a wave of his hand. It even flooded the earth, making the Noah's Ark thing a reality. Aquaman, no. Civilized you and me. I agree with you. Listen to the analysis of Maria Hill in front of you. Nick Fury nodded. So, what's your conclusion? I have no idea. Facing Nick Fury's inquiry, Maria Hill was silent for a moment. Then he shook his head. I don't know how to treat him either. The last one who made us so helpless was Dr. Bruce Banner, who turned into a green titan because of gamma rays. It's just that for Dr. Bruce Banner, we are not really helpless. We just can't use it. But the method of dealing with Dr. Bruce Banner will definitely not work for Suche. After all, if you lock him in an airtight jar and throw him into the bottom of the sea, maybe it will become Sue's home field instead. However, Suche is not without weaknesses, but only if... No! Hearing Hill's words, Nick Fury shook his head immediately. Sue is not our enemy, Hill. And what you said and thought, do you want to pay for the whole of New York? What's more, even if we can afford this price, are you sure you can really destroy Sue? You still underestimate him. Then what should we do? Let's just leave him alone? Listening to Nick Fury's words, Maria Hill remained expressionless. Who said he was left alone? Didn't you see that I've sent Natasha Romanoff with him? Not to mention, I sent him the twins Wanda and Pietro. I don't get it, Nick. It's the same as Sue. Hill, if you get the chance in the future, then you'll know. Looking at Hill, Nick Fury showed a rare smile in SHILD. Sometimes emotions are always better than weapons. Definitely, I can't tell you the specifics. Okay, anyway, you are the director of S.H.I.E.L.D. Since you think there is a way, then I have no objection. Glancing at the time, it was almost 12 o'clock in the evening. Maria Hill stood up and said to Nick Fury, I'm going to rest. Go. Watching Hill turn and leave, Nick Fury stopped her again. When Hill turned around, Nick Fury smiled and said, do me a favor, don't report things about Suche to those guys from the World Security Council. Good. Without the slightest hesitation, Maria Hill nodded and turned to leave. Nick Fury takes care of the planet more than anyone else. So, no reporting, no reporting. Since he is confident, he doesn't have to guess too much. Watching Hill leave, he also closed the office door for himself very intimately. Nick Fury picked up his phone and sent Natasha Romanoff a text message. Then he opened his private record and raised the danger level of the column related to Suche to the highest level. At the same time, a sentence is also remarked at the back. Once Suche has dangerous tendencies or ideas, destroy them at all costs. If necessary, you can plant mushroom eggs on him. Yeah, don't look at what Nick Fury swears by Hill. However, for someone like Suche, who has the ability to destroy a city or even the earth, Nick Fury can't trust 100%. Even his last hole card, the Captain Marvel Carl Luo. Nick Fury has prepared means to deal with her. Tesseract, including studying one of Tesseract's purposes for creating weapons. It's not just about dealing with aliens. Definitely, this point, or this dark mind, only he himself knows. 100%, trust a person without reservation. There is absolutely no way Nick Fury can do it. Chapter 39, Natasha Romanoff blew herself up, and she was about to cry. My name is Natasha Romanoff, an agent of SHIELD. Teowalan Cafe, the next morning. Sit across from Suche. Holding coffee in both hands, Natasha Romanoff introduced herself to Soo-chae with a smile. That's right, although Natasha Romanoff knew. Soo-chae had already recognized herself the first day she saw her. But as the holder of the black gold diary, Natasha Romanoff knew that Soo-chae knew herself. But he still has to pretend not to know. Soo-chae knows his own affairs. This logic is not messy. At least Natasha Romanoff believes that Soo-chae does not know about the diary holder. Therefore, some introductions are necessary. Your expression is very calm. You don't even have any fluctuations in your eyes. Holding the coffee, Soo-chae didn't show any surprise after watching himself introduce himself. Natasha Romanoff laughed. While sending Wanda and Pietro to school this morning, I was thinking about what if I would introduce myself to you. Then what would your reaction be? I've thought about your various expressions, whether it's surprise, doubt, or anger. But now it seems that you are so calm, as if you knew it in advance. This is a normal conversation. It's a dialogue that fits the first demagogue. At least, this is in line with Natasha Romanoff's intention to hide that she is the holder of the black gold diary and does not know that Soo-chae knows her. Last night, Nick Fury texted her so that she could tell Soo-chae about her identity today. The purpose is to help Soo-chae legitimately and brightly. Go spy on jewelry stores all over New York. After all, Soo-chae wrote that diary entry yesterday, and Tony Stark helped him with this kind of thing before. So in Nick Fury's view, since Tony Stark has not become the so-called superhero, then the monitoring of the whole city should be done by S.H.I.E.L.D., help a superhero. This is what S.H.I.E.L.D. should do. So what if you want the other party to do things for you without giving sweetness? If you want to take it first, you must give it first. This is the attitude of doing things. No surprise there either. Looking at Natasha Romanoff in front of him, Soo-chae said indifferently, "Do you still remember half a month ago when you took me to the shooting range?" "Definitely. That's when you discover my identity. It's about the same. After all, it's not just a random person who can pass 13 bullets through the same bullet hole." Putting down the black coffee in his hand, Soo-chae looked at Natasha Romanoff, who blew her identity in front of her. Then he asked, "Did you come to my coffee shop to spy on me or to perform a mission?" "Neither." Natasha Romanoff, who had already made up the reason, leaned on the seat and smiled. "Every time I finish the task, I like to change my identity and experience a different life. On the one hand, it eliminates the negative emotions of stress and tasks. On the other hand, it makes me feel that I am a living person, not a task machine. This is also the reason for coming to your Teowalan Cafe. It can only be called a coincidence. It's just that I didn't expect that you are not from common." Holding the coffee cup in one hand, Natasha Romanoff's bright red lips tasted it slightly. "Sure enough, I still can't adapt to black coffee without sugar. If I had known earlier, I would not have ordered the same coffee as Soo-chae because of the so-called identity psychology. There was a fight in the parking lot of the apartment you were in yesterday. To be precise, it should be a unilateral suppression. You can actually turn Ren, who was alive 1 second, into a mummy the next second. Tisk, do you know how frightened our S.H.I.E.L.D. inspectors were when the test results came out? So, you're here to catch me?" Looking at Natasha Romanoff, Soo-chae's indifferent smile remained unchanged. There was even a flash of interest in the originally melancholy eyes. It seemed as if he was deliberately teasing her. I silently remembered Soo-chae's look in my heart. Natasha Romanoff shrugged and said, "Definitely didn't come here to catch you. In fact, you don't seem to care about being arrested by S.H.I.E.L.D. The real purpose of my coming here today is to find out what happened yesterday afternoon. Sue, although we have only been in contact for a short month, I think we're already friends. As a friend, I believe that you are definitely not the kind of villain who abuses super abilities. I have seen many people who commit all kinds of crimes, and I have also seen many people who kill and even eat people. But no matter what the reason is, you are different from them. I want to figure out what happened yesterday afternoon, and I want to help you. So, can you tell me what exactly happened yesterday afternoon? Trust me, I mean it." With that said, Natasha Romanoff hesitated for a while, and then said softly, "If I can't investigate clearly what happened yesterday afternoon, then you, the person involved, may really be wanted by S.H.I.E.L.D. Maybe you don't know what SHIELD stands for, but I believe you don't want to see the consequences of SHIELD's orders." Listening to Natasha Romanoff was clearly threatening, but her tone was not even half threatening. Instead, there was an extra tone of sincere desire to help. Suche picked up his coffee and said with a smile, "Thank you, but there are some things that you can't handle or even accept. And to correct you, the guy who turned into a mummy yesterday afternoon is not a human being. To be precise, it should be a humanoid monster. Secondly, I don't trust your so-called shield, and I don't need help. I can handle my own affairs. If the SHIELD behind you has the ability to catch me, then let them come over and try. Just right, I haven't moved my muscles for a long time. Well, I wrote it all in my diary, and I don't trust the current shield." In the minds of Nick Fury and Natasha Romanoff, they don't think they know the secret of the diary. So make every choice yourself. You have to keep the personality you wrote. So, are we talking about it? Looking at Suche, Natasha Romanoff frowned and asked while holding a coffee cup in both hands. "It counts. Then, can I continue to work in your coffee shop?" Blinking his eyes, the serious expression suddenly disappeared. As if playing face-changing, Natasha Romanoff immediately put on a pitiful, "Please don't fire me" expression. In the face of the last second, "I still want to help you. SHIELD is very powerful. You and SHIELD will have a serious expression that you will regret." In the next second, it turned into a cute and pitiful appearance. Suche couldn't laugh or cry in his heart. "It's already discussed, but you still want to work here? Moreover, how did you manage to act cute and pitiful in front of a man 5 years younger than you? TSK, can you only say that you are a trained professional agent? Even the expressions are so professional. But let alone the widow's sister, who is at the peak of her appearance, is acting cute and pitiful. It's really pretty beautiful." Chapter 40, The Fifth Diary. Wanda is getting tangled. "I can't remember how many times Pepper Potts has come to my coffee shop since Tony was kidnapped. Except for the first few days, Peepo came every day for the next month, and not very willing to leave." In her words, during the period when Tony was kidnapped, she felt oppressed in Stark Industries. But the fact is that she gave herself this depression. After all, more than a month has passed since Tony Stark was kidnapped. Whether it is the outside media, Stark Industries employees, or even members of the Stark Industries board of directors, they have given up hope that Tony can come back alive. However, only she hasn't given up yet. So, in the camp that has given up hope, as the only one who is still looking for hope, how can it be possible not to be depressed? So during this period of time, she would rather stay in my coffee shop and chat with me about things than go back to Stark Industries. Although the fifth diary seems to be written in small talk. But both Natasha Romanoff and Nick Fury paid more attention to this diary. Nothing else, because they can analyze Suche's emotions with the help of this diary, through this seemingly chatty diary. Suche's mood is important to Nick Fury. Even how to appease Suche, how to make Suche increase his sense of identity with their world. Even blending into this world, treating this world as his world. This is extremely important to Nick Fury, especially after getting to know Suche's ability again, and even suspecting that Suche's strength is only a small part. Nick Fury takes Suche more seriously. The world needs a hero, a superhero who can stand up on the eve of destruction and save the world. Not to mention, Suche is also the Avenger of the parallel world, a superhero who has protected the Earth for more than 10 years. Whether it is his firm belief for more than 10 years, or his cognition of all major events related to the Earth in the future, the importance of this to their world is self-evident. It was like being among the three who got the Black Gold Diary from the very beginning. After reading the first diary, Nick Fury, the king of agents who has always doubted everything, is the most trusted person among the three diary holders. Because whether it is Avengers, a concept super team that has ideas but has not yet been proposed, I was still shocked by the strong sense of despair in that diary. Nick Fury hopes that what this diary writes is true, although the idea is nasty. But if everything recorded in the diary is true, then even though the parallel world has been destroyed, but their world will have one more superhero who is determined, full of faith, able to protect the Earth, and has a clear understanding of the future. That's what Nick Fury needs most. The Earth has never been safe. Nick Fury has a clear understanding of this. For Suche, it can be said that in Nick Fury's heart, The importance of Su Che has far exceeded that of other superheroes who have not yet appeared. Therefore, what Nick Fury hopes to see most is that Su Che can regenerate emotions with other former comrades in arms, in order to slowly integrate into this world. That's why Nick Fury sent Natasha Romanoff to approach Su Che. In the same way, this is also after Nick Fury saw in the diary that Wanda was his wife in the parallel world. Rather change the future than directly bring back the Wanda-Pietro twins. As long as Su Che can integrate into this world, form a bond with this world, become a part of this world, and become a superhero who guards this world. Well, whatever it takes, Nick Fury thinks it's worth it. So when you see what is described in the diary, the fifth diary is more like some daily life. There are many reasons why Nick Fury will be at ease in his heart. After all, compared to seeing the diary in the corner of the future, he would rather see a Su Che whose mentality is gradually calming down. Which one is the most important, the best for the world? Nick Fury knows very clearly. Well, Nick Fury knows that well. But that doesn't mean other people know it well. Like Wanda right now. Looking at the description in the diary, I can't wait to stay in Pabwa in Teowalan Cafe every day. An inexplicable sourness rose in my heart. Although Sue is just her husband in a parallel world. But when I think of other women running into Teowalan Cafe every day, talk and laugh with my future husband every day, Wanda felt irritated for no reason. How could this be so? That is my future husband. What are you trying to do in front of him every day? But when I thought about it, I was only 14 years old now, and I was only 15 years old in more than a month. Wanda was a little discouraged. When can I grow up? On the sofa, watching and listening to Wanda's constantly changing expressions and small movements. Natasha Romanoff definitely knew what she was thinking. He raised his hand and rubbed Wanda's head with a smile. Natasha Romanoff is going to wait until after reading this diary, and then comfort this girl who is more mature, but still unable to escape the cranky thinking that should be at this age. It's like seeing Obadiah stand on TV today, the person whom Tony regards as an uncle, said in front of the media, same as when it was time to get Tony back at all costs. Both Peepo and I have mocking eyes. Peepo saw Obadiah stand and Tony being kidnapped, and he has been fighting for power and profit, wanting to make his position go to a higher place, even making Stark Industries his. But what I saw was an old fox who planned to kidnap Tony Stark, but pretended to be innocent and outraged in front of others. All right, perhaps one of the hatreds for the death of Wanda and Pietro's parents can also be placed on him. After all, many weapons from Stark Industries, including the missile that destroyed the Wanda family in Sokovia, were all secretly sold by him through his private channels without telling Stark Industries. See this sentence. Wanda's little tangled expression changed instantly. Chapter 41 Pietro. Damn it, Wanda won't be bent. Obadiah Stein is the CEO of Stark Industries, a member of the board of directors, and the current president of Stark Industries. Looking at the look on Wanda's face, Natasha Romanoff definitely knew what she was thinking. In fact, Natasha Romanoff also knows about Wanda's life experience, so she also understands the resentment towards Wanda. In fact, since the death of Mr. Howard Stark and his wife, Ms. Maria, Tony Stark has been in the care of Obadiah Stein. Obadiah Stein is responsible for the normal operation and business dealings of the Stark industry. Tony Stark is only responsible for researching the weapons needed by the Stark industry. It can be said that the combination of these two people is very suitable. One is not willing to manage the business, but only likes to study things and enjoy life, and is a playboy. And the other is obsessed with the control of Stark Industries. Looking at Wanda, Natasha Romanoff said seriously, "So for what Sue wrote in his diary, those who bombed your homeland and killed your parents. I'm afraid it really will be Obadiah Stein's fault. After all, according to his status in Stark Industries, it is easy for him to seek personal gain and use private channels to sell weapons." Listen to Natasha Romanoff say that. There was a glint of gloom in Wanda's eyes. But even if the culprit is Obadiah Stein, that Tony Stark is still involved. Who made the missile that made us lose our parents? Hearing what Wanda said, Natasha Romanoff shrugged, but did not refute. Wanda can say this subconsciously. This proves that she has 100% trust in what Sue wrote in the diary. This also indirectly proves that the little girl Wanda has a very unusual feeling for Sue. It reminds me of the time when Peepo stayed in the coffee shop every day during the period I just read and didn't want to face the depressing office. A look of unnaturalness flashed across Wanda's expression. TSK, seeing that Wanda really developed feelings for Sue through the diary. In other words, she really regarded Sue as her future husband. Well, leave that layer aside. Just talk about the relationship between Obadiah Stane and Tony Stark. The original purpose of knife manufacturers is to produce kitchen knives for cutting vegetables, which is convenient for people's lives. But if someone uses a vegetable knife to kill someone, can the knife manufacturer be blamed? The answer is obvious. But sometimes, the facts are true, but the words cannot. At least, these words should not be said by myself. I am not qualified to persuade Wanda myself, who told me that I was not clean either. When I was in the Red House, I made a lot of blood debts in order to survive. During the period of escaping from the Red House, how many innocent people were injured by bombing the hospital by himself and causing bloodshed? A person with a bloody debt and hands full of sins is not qualified to persuade others, even if he can get the so-called salvation. But that doesn't mean you're clean. Looking at Wanda's gloomy little face, Natasha Romanoff stretched out his arms to hug Wanda, as if silently comforting a little sister. Her fate is very bitter, but why is she not? So, what's going on? Pietro, who came out of the bedroom, was again at 10 o'clock in the evening. Saw the picture of Natasha Romanoff and Wanda hugging each other. What a scene of deja vu. No, you women have so many whispers every night that you can't let others know. Why did I go out to the bathroom twice and see the same picture twice? Etc. This Natasha Romanoff, who became the guardian of herself and Wanda, can't be ALN. After all, Natasha Romanoff is so pretty and has such a good figure. But I never heard that she had a boyfriend. Thinking of the future, my sister, Wanda, said to herself one day, she decides to marry Natasha Romanoff in the future and spend the rest of her life together. Pietro shivered subconsciously. No wonder Natasha Romanoff became her and Wanda's guardian. Damn it. It turned out that she had a crush on Wanda, so she wanted to cultivate a relationship in advance to start. What are you thinking about? He turned his head and looked at Pietro, who was standing not far from the sofa, who was thinking wildly at the moment. Wanda, who had a gloomy expression, immediately put away her expression and asked Pietro, "Why are you still sleeping so late? I'm going to go to the bathroom, you guys." Before Pietro finished speaking, Wanda said softly, "Since you're going to the bathroom, what are you doing there? Hurry up. Go to bed after you're done. You have to go to school tomorrow." Okay. Hearing what Wanda said, Pietro nodded subconsciously. "Then you too." Before he could finish speaking, he saw the look in Wanda's hand. Go to the bathroom cleanly. Wash your hands and go to bed after using the toilet." When passing by the living room, I glanced at Wanda and Natasha Romanoff, who were whispering. Pietro hesitated for a moment, then quietly returned to his room. Turn off the light and lie on the bed looking at the ceiling. Pietro, who was still a little sleepy at first, now has no sleepiness with his eyes open. Natasha Romanoff likes girls. She actually likes women. And he also set his target on his own sister. Damn, how could she do this? Thinking back to just now, Natasha Romanoff put his arm around his sister's shoulders, and Wanda leaned on her very obediently. Thinking of this scene, Pietro felt a little irritable. I heard from the teachers at the school that the Organization for the Protection of Minors here is very strong. If you encounter domestic violence problems or feel threatened, you can go to them. So can I ask them for help? But why did Wanda not resist at all, but acted willingly? God, Wanda can't really be bent by Natasha Romanoff. If so, Wanda really likes Natasha Romanoff too. Then find that organization to forcibly separate Natasha Romanoff and Wanda. Doing so will surely make Wanda die of grief. I know very well how much Wanda longs for a complete family. Lie on the bed and thump twice. Pietro was very irritable at the moment. At the age of 14, he likes to think wildly in this night. Completely insomnia. Chapter 42, How to Obtain the Rewards of the Perfect Advanced Version of Superman's Body. Add another pair of horns. Picture the horns on Loki's helmet, and the horns on the head of the fiery Titan Surtur. Suche added a pair of red thumb file-size horns to Olivia Temple, the enemy whose image is being set up in the system. Well, it is also the pioneer of the planet Devourer. Other people's Silver Surfers can have metallic silver all over their bodies, and they can fly into the sky on a skateboard. The Olivia Temple I created couldn't be so ordinary, could it? Looking at the height of 3 meters, it seems that there is dark brown magma flowing all over the body. Suche nodded in satisfaction. Just this size, plus dark red's evil eyes and devil-like sharp horns on his head. Anyone who sees it and doesn't think it's an evil villain? System. I remember that in the mission, every time I kill the Olivia Temple I created, I will get an ability. Right. Then the first time I killed it, what ability did I get? Looking at the system creation page, whether it is image, ability, or others, they are all enemies and villains created by themselves. Suche asked the system in satisfaction. The first time you kill the enemy Olivia Temple, you will get one of the 2 rewards. 1. The Body of Superman, Advanced Defense Version. 2. Cyclops Advanced Version. Suche asked casually, but unexpectedly the system actually gave an answer. Looking at the rewards given by the system, Suche's eyes lit up instantly. Although the ability of Cyclops is also very strong. But there is really no first reward in sense, even if the first reward is just an advanced defense version of Superman's body. What do you lack most now? It is a super defensive physique that can withstand bullets, bomb mushroom eggs, etc. The attacker of Hydra in Sokovia last time, if he hadn't perceived himself as in danger. I'm afraid a bullet will really take me away. Now, with this reward, although it is only a defensive version of Superman's body, not all of Superman's abilities. But, in other words, doesn't it mean that he is at least full in defense? Don't forget, with this defense advanced version of Superman's body, from then on, I don't have to worry about danger. I can use the diary editing system to set up a superhero persona to convince the diary holder. So you can use other super abilities with peace of mind. Click on the rewards of the system with a hint of excitement. Blocked the second Cyclops option without any hesitation, and clicked on the reward of Superman body. Soon, a detailed introduction to Superman's body, Advanced Defense Edition, appeared in front of Suche. System note: the advanced version of Superman's body defense, exempt from all physical rules and magic damage. At the same time, there is no need to worry about the weakening caused by kryptonite. No, the body of Superman only increases the defense mechanism and does not mean that he can obtain all the abilities of Superman. To obtain other abilities, the host still needs to work hard. Seeing the simple introduction of the system, Suche's heart was filled with enthusiasm. The advanced defense version of Superman's body is much stronger than the original Superman's body. You must know that in DC Comics, although Superman's Iron Man is very strong, it has a fatal weakness. That's kryptonite. Both Batman and Zod use kryptonite to weaken and then defeat Superman. Most importantly, the original Superman's Iron Man was not immune to magical interference. It has appeared more than once in DC's comics. Dachau was intruded by the enemy's magic and even bewitched his mind. Therefore, whether it is Zatanna or Zhakong, that group of demon mage is one of the group of people that Dachau least likes to confront. But now, the reward he got after killing Olivia Temple. You can directly get the advanced version, which can be called the perfect version of Superman's body. Well, with this advanced version of the full body of Superman's body defense, when the self-defense is full. From then on, I no longer have to worry about attacks and dangers. Coupled with the diary editing reward, Natasha Romanoff's trust value reached over 90%, and she gained 10 times the physical fitness of an ordinary person's peak. In other abilities, it can be said that in the near future, Zhang Lai, I am afraid that he will really become an existence that can single out Galactus. Thinking of this, Suche began to think about how to stage the big event he created. The early foreshadowing is enough, and the next step is to launch the enemy Olivia Temple from the system. At the same time, it must be beheaded. It must not be the kind of incident that can kill, but not kill. This is not only disgusting, but more importantly, it will be discovered by Nick Fury and others. This is not in line with the means of a villain who has more than 10 years of Avenger career and is threat to the Earth. In the face of savable, innocent people, it is definitely necessary to save. But in the face of villains who have the ability to threaten the Earth, or even destroy it, it should be decisive. This is what a qualified Earth's guardian should do. Thinking of this, Suche began to think about how to invest in things that would convince him and maximize his benefits. Presumably based on what I recorded in the fourth diary. Nick Fury should have sent someone to monitor jewelry stores all over New York. Well, I have to use it to bring the widow's sister into the situation I set up. Without letting them see it with their own eyes, how can they improve their trust in the diary and refresh other new abilities? Chapter 43 about Wanda's orientation. So let's support it early the next morning. Did you not sleep well last night? Looking at Pietro, who came out of the wash with some heavy eye circles, Wanda sat at the dining table and asked Pietro. It counts. Looking at Wanda, Pietro hesitated for a moment, then shook his head and sat on the dining table. In the kitchen, Natasha Romanoff, who came over with breakfast, sat at the table and added an extra hard-boiled egg to the plate in front of Wanda and Pietro. You are growing up. You should eat more. Only by absorbing enough nutrients can the body develop fully. Hearing what Natasha Romanoff said, Pietro struggled for a moment, then nodded. Wanda looked up at Natasha Romanoff instead. Thinking back to what I felt when I leaned on Natasha Romanoff to read Sue's diary last night. Subconsciously, he lowered his head and looked at his somewhat flat place. Then his eyes lit up. He smiled sweetly at Natasha Romanoff and picked up the eggs and ate them. Seeing Wanda's delicious food, he tentatively sent the boiled egg on his plate to Wanda's plate. Then I saw that Wanda started to eat without any hesitation. It's over, as expected. My guess has come true. Pietro, who had been secretly watching Wanda from the corner of his eye just now, was more certain of his guess last night. You must know that although Wanda is not a picky eater, she doesn't like to eat chicken and boiled eggs that much. On the contrary, if there is a choice of food, then Wanda will never touch boiled eggs. But now, just after she handed over her boiled egg, Wanda ate it without hesitation. What does this mean? Prove that your guess is true. Wanda has really fallen and been bent. She really likes Natasha Romanoff. This is absolutely true. Otherwise, according to Wanda's personality, she would definitely tell herself to eat her own boiled eggs. But now, Wanda isn't just eating her share of hard-boiled eggs. He even ate the boiled egg that he handed over. Isn't this the best proof? Because Natasha Romanoff gets up early to cook boiled eggs. Pietro's brainstorming continued, but Natasha Romanoff looked at Wanda eating boiled eggs with the same smile on his face. Just now, Wanda's immature body was compared with her own. What she was thinking, she definitely knew. But Natasha Romanoff is not going to tell Wanda that eating eggs won't make her bigger. After breakfast, Natasha Romanoff drove Wanda and Pietro to school. Along the way, Pietro sat in the back row and was very tangled. Wait until you get off the bus and enter the school gate. After watching Natasha Romanoff leave, Wanda suddenly said to Pietro, "Tell me, what are you struggling with?" Pietro, who was still immersed in his own thoughts, suddenly heard Wanda's inquiry and subconsciously looked at Wanda. "Pietro, I'm your older sister. We grew up together. We suffer from insomnia and entanglement. Do you think I can't see it? Nor not." Looking at Wanda, who stared at him with burning eyes, Pietro hesitated for a while and then whispered to Wanda, "Wanda, although you have always claimed to be my sister, I think you know that I am actually the big brother. It's just, I want to say that I thought about it all night, and finally I still think, as long as you can feel happy, as long as you can feel happy, that's enough." Looking at it, he took a deep breath, and then he was very serious about himself, saying these confusing words. Wanda raised her hand and tapped Pietro's head. "What are you thinking about all day?" "No, it's your choice for the other half, and I definitely support it." Looking at Wanda, Pietro said seriously, "We are siblings. Whoever you like is your freedom. No matter what others say, I will stand firmly by your side. You knew already?" Listening to Pietro's words, watching Pietro make up his mind after struggling, Wanda also thought that he had discovered that he had a crush on Suche, his future husband from a parallel world. There is an unusual feeling that Pietro discovered. I thought that the reason Pietro was struggling was because he was only 14 years old. I'm not stupid. We grew up together. How could I not see it? After the words were spoken, Pietro felt a lot more relaxed. On the contrary, Wanda was silent for a moment, then smiled and said, "Let's talk about the future. I'm still young. Just wait." "All right, anyway. I respect you as a big brother." "Hey, Pietro, remember? I'm the older sister." While talking, the twins walked towards the classroom with different misunderstandings. On the other side, in the car, Natasha Romanoff, "Come to SHILD immediately. Something is wrong. It's about Suche." Listen to the serious tone of Nick Fury on the other end of the phone. Natasha Romanoff, who had a relaxed expression, stepped on the accelerator instantly and drove towards the place where the Quinjet fighter was. Well, whoever made Natasha Romanoff Wanda and Pietro's guardian was in New York, in the headquarters of the SHILD Trident Building, in Washington, D.C. Chapter 44, Scary Humanoid Monster. Natasha Romanoff is glad that Suche trusted her. Trident Building headquarters. Natasha Romanoff, who hurried back in a Quinjet fighter, followed Nick Fury's instructions all the way to the 17th floor, the research room of the Trident Building. "Boss, what happened?" Looking at Nick Fury standing outside the clear glass, observing the research laboratory, Natasha Romanoff asked, "Remember what Suche wrote in his diary? That one of the abilities named Olivia Temple, nicknamed Balrog?" In the face of Nick Fury's questioning, Natasha Romanoff immediately said, "Remember, according to Sue's description in the diary, Olivia Temple guessed that it was an enemy from a different dimension. At the same time, it has the ability to confuse others, according to what is said in the diary. The more evil a person is in his heart, the more he will be seduced by Olivia Temple." Listening to Natasha Romanoff's answer, Nick Fury nodded with a serious expression. A report was also delivered to Natasha Romanoff. "Didn't Suche be attacked 2 days ago? According to what he told you after you confessed your identity as an SHILD agent. A man who is bewitched by Olivia Temple is no longer human. I asked Hill to lead someone to bring back the attacker who was turned into a mummy by Suche and let the experimenters conduct research. It was found that there was nothing unusual." Having said that, Nick Fury stared seriously at the guy in the laboratory who was being dissected at the moment. According to Suche's diary, Olivia Temple can draw energy from jewelry. So since Suche was attacked, I had the SHILD satellite monitor jewelry stores all over New York. Sure enough, just last night, a jewelry store on 7th Street in New York was attacked. This is the guy who raided an entire jewelry store by himself. When the SHILD agent near New York was sent by me to arrest him. This guy is extremely strong against ability. It took a lot of money to kill him and bring him back. Turning his head, he looked at Natasha Romanoff. Romanoff was reading the report. Nick Fury said seriously, "The heart and the head are the two fatal weaknesses of the common people, and it is useless to hit him. It was one of the detectives who accidentally hit the back of his neck when he shot, and he was killed on the spot. Heart, liver, spleen, lung, and kidney are all gone." Looking at what was shown in the report, dissect this bewitched corpse. It was found that this guy didn't have any internal organs of ordinary people in a corpse. Instead, it was a 3-meter-long, bloodthirsty mouthparts that looked like a tongue, with densely packed dozens of sharp teeth. Natasha Romanoff frowned and asked Nick Fury, "What is this tongue-like thing? It seems that even the vampires and legendary are not so disgusting." "It's not clear yet. The experimenter is testing. As for whether bloodthirsty, or whether the tongue projected from the mouth is also contagious, whether it can transform the common people into their own kind, and whether there are other weaknesses besides the cervical spine and the neck, we don't know anything at this time." Having said that, Nick Fury looked at Natasha Romanoff and said seriously, "Just like what Sue said, people transformed by Olivia Temple ability can no longer be called human beings. More like a humanoid monster. If this monster has the ability to transform common people, then Natasha Romanoff, you should be able to imagine the degree of threat it will cause." Facing Nick Fury's extremely serious expression, Natasha Romanoff said with an equally serious expression, "I've seen the Resident Evil movie and the comics about the big events in the DC zombie universe shot a few years ago. Once you are bitten or scratched like a zombie, you will also become a zombie. I'm afraid it won't be long before the whole of New York will be reduced to a living hell. So, I understand what you mean. I will go to Sue immediately and have a serious talk with him. Whether Marvel is a movie universe or comics, there are DC Comics, and the same DC Comics seem to have Marvel Comics. Definitely, the latter is not sure. Because apart from some classic DC Comics, I haven't read more DC Universe comics. Watching Natasha Romanoff has realized the seriousness of the matter. Nick Fury nodded. That's why I called you back. Natasha Romanoff. Sue once wrote in his diary that among all the superheroes in the entire Avengers alliance, your position in his heart is different. Plus, with Sue's identity, he knows the seriousness of the matter, so I believe you will be able to convince him. I'll go now. Nodding solemnly, Natasha Romanoff was just about to return the report to Nick Fury. But I saw Nick Fury shaking his head. Take this report. Now this matter is except for the researchers in the laboratory. Only you, me, and he'll know. Nick, are you suspicious of S.H.I.E.L.D.? I get it. Nodding slightly, Natasha Romanoff looked at Nick Fury. Perhaps it is true, as Sue said, S.H.I.E.L.D. is not trustworthy yet. But fortunately, I am trustworthy in Sue's diary. Otherwise, according to your guest Nick, once this thing comes true, then this kind of thing will be terrible. However, I really want to meet the me in Sue's world and see what kind of abilities she has, so that she can have such an important position and evaluation in the heart of a superhero like Sue. Chapter 45 Nick Fury. Well, Steve and Sue Che are quite a match. Watch as Natasha Romanoff leaves with the report. Maria Hill pushed the door open and walked in. Hill, how are your preparations going? Seeing Hill approaching, Nick Fury asked with a serious expression. It's almost ready. According to the test by Dr. S.H.I.E.L.D., he still has vital signs. After thawing, his vital signs are returning to normal. I just don't know when I will wake up. After answering Nick Fury's question, Hill said with a little emotion, I didn't expect that we could really find this frozen legendary hero. Not to mention, it has been almost 70 years, and he is still so young, and he is still alive after being frozen for nearly 70 years. God, I simply suspect that the serum that Dr. Abraham Erskine injected into the legendary hero was not a super soldier serum. It's the serum extracted from Superman's body in the comics. Listening to Hill's emotion, Nick Fury didn't say much. Indeed, it was discovered from the records in Sue Che's diary. When Steve Rogers, the legendary who had been frozen in sleep for nearly 70 years, was still alive, Nick Fury felt a little incredible. Then, using the power and technology of S.H.I.E.L.D., they searched frantically at the North Pole mentioned in Sue Che's diary. Unexpectedly, it was actually found. After hearing the news, Nick Fury immediately asked people to bring back the frozen and sleeping Steve Rogers. At the same time, let Hill start preparations and start to restore a scene of the building in that year. Well, Nick Fury is also worried. This superhero, who has been sleeping for nearly 70 years, wouldn't be able to accept awakening coming. Half a century has passed. Let's find a way to wake up this legendary hero with all our strength. As for the others, I think he will accept it slowly. Look at the humanoid being dissected in the laboratory behind the clear glass. Nick Fury said in a low voice to Hill, well, if Steve Rogers wakes up, he really can't accept this news. In other words, it is impossible to integrate into this new world. Then send him directly to Teotihuacan CAF to be with Sue Che. One is the superhero who came to this world because of the destruction of the parallel world. One is Captain Legendary, who has been sleeping for 70 years and was abandoned by the original world. I believe that in this era that does not belong to them, but has to gradually integrate into this era. The two of them must have a lot in common. Well, let's not talk about it. Looking at it this way, maybe the two of them will really get along very well. New York, Peach Blossom Cafe. I think you should promote Selena to store manager. Looking at the front of the counter, Selena always keeps a sweet smile on the guests. Even when the piece is dirty, she will deal with it as soon as possible. Natasha Romanoff sat opposite Sue Che with a cup of coffee and said with a smile, she is the hardest working girl I have ever seen. I mean, in this coffee shop. It can be seen that she is very responsible. Whether it is for customers or other things, she is very attentive. Speaking of this, Natasha Romanoff raised an eyebrow at Suche. You should know that the other girls in the store, including some female customers who approached you, are just to lure you to the bedroom and want to try the mysterious Oriental lash. Only Selena wants to become a store manager and is working hard for it. Hearing what Natasha Romanoff said, Suche glanced at Selena, who was standing inside the counter, smiling at the customers who came to buy coffee. Then he nodded. That's true. After the account reconciliation is completed at the end of the month, it belongs to Selena's longing for the position of store manager. Maybe I will hand it over to her. But before that, are you sure you came here today to talk to me about this? Looking at Natasha Romanoff while holding a coffee. Tell me, what do you want me to do this time if it's a collaboration with SHIELD? Then forget it. Like I said, I don't trust the current shield. After speaking, Suche picked up the coffee and took a sip. In fact, hand-ground black coffee has no added sugar and tastes a bit sour and bitter. Most people really can't accept it. But if you can accept this taste, then the unique burnt aroma of black coffee is really memorable. Instead of cooperating with SHIELD, we discovered the humanoid monster you mentioned last time. After handing over the information to Suche, Natasha Romanoff's expression became serious again from the joke just now. Sue, you should be the one who knows this kind of humanoid monster best. After all, you are the first to come into contact with it. I don't know if you've seen the Resident Evil movie. We're not sure if this humanoid monster is contagious right now. After all, the kind of tongue-like mouth parts that can be spit out from the mouth are too scary. Once a monster like this is contagious, it can turn common people into monsters like them. Then I'm afraid it won't be long before this world will completely fall. After speaking, he looked at Suche, who was flipping through the report he had brought. Natasha Romanoff said solemnly, I know you don't trust SHIELD, and that's okay. But I hope you can trust me. Chapter 46. Natasha Romanoff is so envious of herself in the parallel world. In August, the warm sunshine shines on the body through the transparent glass. It makes people feel warm. But sitting in the coffee shop by the window, Suche could feel a chill at this moment. If it wasn't for this dissected Olivia Temple's men created it herself, then I really thought that I had traveled to the Blood Clan movie world. Well, although I know what's going on, but it's clear that SHIELD's analysis has gone too far. In particular, the anatomical pictures are accompanied by a detailed analysis report. The 3-meter-long mouth parts covered with sharp teeth, as well as dissected pictures. Even the most important remarks in the report. It has not yet been analyzed whether it is highly contagious. In order to prevent accidents, once it is found to be contagious, it is recommended to take the highest level of prevention. Anyone who has been in contact with it can use physical methods to deal with it if necessary. Well, what is the physical way to deal with it? To put it simply, it is anyone who has come into contact with Olivia Temple's subordinates. In order to prevent infection, the best option is to eliminate directly. Closing the report in his hand, Suche looked at Natasha Romanoff and asked, Where did you catch this person who was bewitched by the Balrog? Inside a jewelry store on 7th Street. Facing Suche, Natasha Romanoff told all the known news without any hesitation. Unnecessary. After hearing the news from Natasha Romanoff, Suche said, Let go of that poor clerk who was locked up by you last night. As for what you were most worried about, the thing that was bewitched by Olivia Temple and turned into a humanoid monster in the name of evolution is actually not contagious. It won't be like zombies. After common people are scratched or bitten, they will assimilate into zombies. The mouth parts covered with sharp teeth in the report are just the weapons of that kind of humanoid monster. Except for Olivia Temple originally, his other subordinates don't have the ability to bewitch. Having said that, Suche paused. The coffee in my hand felt a little cold. It was placed directly on the table. In fact, Olivia Temple is able to turn people into that humanoid monster. On the one hand, he can use his spiritual power to create extremely evil scenes in the spiritual world of the bewitched person. Then he can arouse the evil thoughts in the heart of the evil person and amplify them infinitely. After these people's spiritual thoughts are controlled, and they become the so-called believers of Olivia Temple, he will put a trace of flowing magma on his body. Well, let's call it magma for the time being because it is very similar, but I don't know what it is. This is a substance that has never existed on the Earth. After dissolving this peeled magma in water, and drinking it by his followers. Those believers will evolve into the guy you captured, becoming a humanoid monster. Returning the report to Natasha Romanoff, Su Che glanced at the cold coffee. After thinking about it, he picked it up and took a sip. It is not good to waste the business in your own store. This humanoid monster only knows to obey the orders of Olivia Temple. And without any pain or fear, it can be said to be his best tool man who can be discarded at any time. Weaknesses such as the brain, heart, etc., that are fatal to the common people have no effect on this humanoid monster. The only weakness is the cervical spine. Once the cervical spine is penetrated or cut off, the monster will lose its vitality. Hearing Su Che tell himself everything, Natasha Romanoff put away the report and asked seriously, "Nasu, what should we do next?" The whole city of supervisors. Facing Natasha Romanoff's inquiry, Su Che pondered for a moment. I don't know what the price for Olivia Temple to come to this world across dimensions. But obviously, compared to before, his strength has been weakened a lot. It can be seen from the fact that there was only one humanoid monster last night. Otherwise, according to his ability, you should have faced hundreds of monsters last night. Having said that, Su Che fixed his gaze on Natasha Romanoff's eyes. Humanoid monsters are easy to deal with. As long as the cervical spine is amputated, they will lose their vitality. However, there is one thing. Although Olivia Temple has lost most of her abilities, she is not something that the current SHIELD can defeat. Natasha Romanoff, I don't trust SHIELD, but I trust you. Looking at Natasha Romanoff, Su Che's eyes were full of trust at the moment. It's as if the eyes are not looking at Natasha Romanoff, but looking at the partner who has lived and died together countless times in memory. Well, that's the benefit of system simulation. Otherwise, even the most powerful actor in front of a professional agent like Natasha Romanoff, it will also show its feet if you can't kill Olivia Temple before she fully recovers. Perhaps this time the Earth will face big trouble. Facing the look in Su Che's eyes at this moment, Natasha Romanoff, who had already seen various big scenes, felt an inexplicable tremor in her heart at this moment. Although the words in front of me are speaking to myself, but Natasha Romanoff can feel that the eyes of absolute trust, the trust that is so heavy that she is even willing to give her back to herself, is not for herself, but to someone he once knew, the one named Natasha Romanoff. Flashed through my mind, mentioned in the Black Gold Diary. Su Che's affection for Natasha Romanoff originally thought that he already knew enough about the parallel world, and that Natasha Romanoff had a lot in his heart. But now it seems, after all, I still underestimated that heavy feeling. What the hell did Natasha Romanoff from that alternate universe do? Only then can the guy in front of him have the trust that he is willing to entrust his life. Inexplicably, Natasha Romanoff was a little envious of herself in the parallel world in the diary. Perhaps this is why in the Black Gold Diary, the parallel world self. In the end, I would rather give up my life than bring back the lost ones. What I longed for all my life seems to have really come true in the parallel world. Taking a long breath, he forcibly dispelled the feeling in his heart. As a professional agent, Natasha Romanoff knows that this is not the time to express her emotions and emotions. It's just that even she didn't notice it, the voice that asked Su Che was inexplicably astringent. Sour? Or bitter? Who knows? If facing Su Che, Natasha Romanoff asked softly, if the Olivia Temple you mentioned is fully restored. So, how terrifying is he? And besides monitoring jewelry stores all over the city, what other preparations do we need to do? As a professional agent, Natasha Romanoff must ask clearly about the enemies she will face. Even if she really wanted to call Nick Fury right now and ask him to follow Su Che's arrangement. Chapter 47, another huge amount of future information. Nick Fury is dying of a headache. How terrifying would it be if Olivia Temple regained her full strength? Facing Natasha Romanoff's question, Su Che leaned back on the seat. His gaze seemed to flash a flash of memory. Once, I faced Olivia Stein's believers with my friend. Can you imagine facing thousands of monsters who lose their minds and are like zombies in your mouth, with disgusting but sharp, and deadly mouth parts. I've experienced it myself. Looking at Natasha Romanoff, Suche said softly, "That battle finally forced us to use the ultimate power to lift a whole piece of mountain land into the air and finally detonate and destroy it at high altitude. Actually, I don't know how strong Olivia Temple's ability was in its heyday, a self-proclaimed messenger of the gods, but I have repelled him more than once and sent him back to another dimension. The only pity is that I have not been able to completely kill him on Earth. But this time, I'm not going to let him go." Looking into Natasha Romanoff's eyes again, Suche's expression was serious at this moment. "You don't know my past, and SHILD can't investigate my past. But that's okay. One day you'll find out. But before that, Natasha Romanoff, I need you to inform Nick Fury. If you don't want the whole of New York to become an ocean, if you don't want this city with a population of nearly 10 million to completely sink into an ocean, then don't make any small moves. Even if you want to capture monsters for research, you can't make preparations to prevent similar situations from happening in the future. Shut up SHILD's curiosity in the face of special events, and also warn the military and disaster management in New York. Sometimes the heavy price is absolutely unacceptable to them." Listen to Suche's words of warning. Natasha Romanoff nodded slightly. Obviously, Natasha Romanoff can feel unprecedented seriousness from Suche's words. At the same time, what Suche just said, he and his friends should be referring to the Avengers in the parallel world. But what do the last few sentences mean? Suche once said in his diary more than once that the current SHILD is not trustworthy, and then added the military and the disaster management agency. Could it be that these two departments also have forces that Suche doesn't trust at all? Moreover, it seems that the Disaster Management Bureau has not yet been established. Well, that's what I said to myself on purpose so that I could remind Nick Fury. Or has Suche forgotten that the current so-called Post-Disaster Management Bureau is actually just an empty shelf? TSK. However, SHILD is not to be trusted if it is related to what Suche wrote in his diary. Then this thing is really interesting. It is simply full of information. I'm going to tell Nick Fury the whole thing, including your warning. Looking at Suche, Natasha Romanoff nodded. "I think Nick should understand the importance of this matter. If there are no accidents, this time I should be fully cooperating with you on behalf of SHIELD. I'm looking forward to fighting side by side." Looking at Natasha Romanoff, Suche's voice was slightly soft. It seemed like he was talking about something that he had been looking forward to for a long time. "I'm looking forward too." Looking at Suche, Natasha Romanoff answered very seriously. From the beginning, she didn't intentionally ask why Suche knew that the current director of SHILD was Nick Fury. In fact, after 3 trials, although not comprehensive, Natasha Romanoff also believes that there is no need to test again and again. Anyway, she is willing to believe that Suche is a superhero from a parallel world. As for whether Nick Fury is still with a trace of doubt, Natasha Romanoff said it doesn't matter. After all, when did the guy Nick Fury trust a thing 100%? Well, Hill is an exception. 10 minutes later, in the car. "Yes, from now on I will give you the authority and personnel to monitor the whole city, and you can cooperate with Suche in any action." Listening to Natasha Romanoff's report, Nick Fury didn't have any hesitation at all. "As for the military, I'll let someone handle it." Speaking of this, Nick Fury pinched the center of his brows with some headaches. "That's it, Natasha Romanoff. Just cooperate with Sue." Although Sue doesn't currently trust SHILD, this is the key to improving your trust with him. Perhaps after this matter is over, we can obtain some useful information through Sue. Clear. Nodding emphatically, Natasha Romanoff knows what Nick Fury is talking about. The information he said was just to be confirmed by Suche solemnly. The so-called current SHILD is not trustworthy. After all, it is because SHILD has other parties or its own forces in SHIELD. Or, the reason SHILD is truly untrustworthy. Because of HYDRA. And Natasha Romanoff knows. Nick Fury is already on the verge of the ladder. After hanging up the video call, Nick Fury leaned back in his seat and frowned. He has seen too many storms and waves, and he is inexplicably tired at this moment. TSK. From Natasha Romanoff's report just now, it's not hard to hear whether it's the empty post-disaster reconstruction agency or the people on Ross's side. It seems that there is that faint shadow. Does that mean that since that damned shadow can infiltrate SHIELD and these departments, so can it penetrate into other industries? What about Congress? What about the World Security Council? What about high-level executives from all walks of life? Damn, hadn't Hydra been wiped out long ago? Although there are still some Hydra hidden here and there in the corners of this world. However, if it is said that they have infiltrated SHIELD or the senior management of various industries, well, Nick Fury really doesn't want to believe it. But except for this kind of speculation, Nick Fury couldn't think of the reason. That's why Suche distrusts the current SHIELD so much. Pick up the phone and want to call Alexander Pierce, the former director of SHIELD and the current Secretary General of S.H.I.E.L.D. But just as he picked up the phone, he put it down again. Although, I don't want to doubt Alexander Pierce. However, if it is really like what Suche recorded in the Black Gold Diary, in case SHIELD has been infiltrated by HYDRA, then as the former S.H.I.E.L.D. director with great ability, Alexander Pierce, what role does he play in it? After all, Pierce, who has controlled SHIELD for more than 10 years, has a very good ability. If he didn't realize it at all, then Nick Fury would rather believe that the world will end tomorrow. Can't imagine this thing, however, as the king of agents, as the master of S.H.I.E.L.D. But Nick Fury knew that this matter might really have something to do with Alexander Pierce. No matter how much I trust him, however, there are some things that you must do yourself. Heaving a sigh of relief, Nick Fury picked up the phone and asked when Captain America Steve Rogers would wake up. Perhaps wait for these two people who were also abandoned by the world to get together. Then many things should be solved. Compared to this, the villain Olivia Temple in New York is not important. Nick Fury believes that Suche, the Avenger of the parallel world, has the ability to solve this matter, as long as SHIELD doesn't mess with it. Chapter 48, Natasha Romanoff. I suspect Nick Fury of embezzling public funds. In the evening, New York, SHIELD monitors the entire city base. So, this is what you wear when you fight. Looking at a gorgeous silver and white cloak armor. The face is only covered with a visor covering the eyes. But I couldn't tell what Suche looked like. This surprised Natasha Romanoff. As a professional agent, Natasha Romanoff can't say she has a photographic memory. But after being in contact with Suche for more than 2 months, Suche's face has long been engraved in his heart. How could he not recognize him just by wearing a handsome visor? But the reality is, the Suche in front of him just covered the area around his eyes. But I have a very strange feeling. This surprised Natasha Romanoff. This visor has a vision function. As long as you wear this visor, others will not be able to tell the face of the visor's owner. Well, it's similar to the glasses of Superman in the comics, except that Superman relies on his own ability, and the glasses are just decorations. Seeing Natasha Romanoff's surprised look, Suche explained, "This outfit is an extra gift from the system. As a superhero, how can you do without a handsome outfit? You can't face supervillains in normal clothes. It's very out of style. It's really convenient." Hearing Suche's explanation, Natasha Romanoff nodded. "It will be much more convenient for you in the future. At least you don't have to worry about being recognized after saving the world. It's also because there are too few Avengers Alliance superheroes." Leaning in front of the cabinet with Natasha Romanoff, arms folded, watching several staff members in front of them monitor the whole of New York through dozens of screens, Suche said softly, "On the one hand, superhero is just a job identity, and it's best to separate work from personal life. On the other hand, there are too few superheroes now, and if a superhero appears by chance, then the common people can't help but want to dig and disturb because of their novelty hunting mentality. Unnecessarily, it will cause a lot of trouble, but it will be fine in the future. When there are more superheroes and common people are used to it, maybe there is no need to hide their identity." Listening to Suche's talk from experience, Natasha Romanoff nodded slightly. In Natasha Romanoff's mind, Suche must be very experienced in this area. After all, they have been Avengers for more than 10 years before the destruction of the parallel world. So it is absolutely correct to listen to him in this regard. Work is work and life is life. If they get mixed up and cannot be distinguished, I am afraid that my life will also become a mess. This is what Natasha Romanoff had in mind. I also don't like being disturbed by various tasks in my daily life. I thought you'd come with 2 cups of coffee. Looking at Su Che with folded arms and a smile, Natasha Romanoff shrugged and said, "After all, it's already past 10 o'clock, and no one knows when the disaster of unrest will happen tonight. And you are so convenient as the owner of the coffee shop, it's really unreasonable not to bring a few cups of coffee to refresh yourself. You have coffee here?" Looking at the coffee cups placed in front of the staff, Su Che turned his head and asked Natasha Romanoff, "Come on, it's the instant one." Leaning against the cabinet speechlessly, Natasha Romanoff spread her hands and said, "I don't know why. SHILD's logistics side can save more and more money now. When I was first brought into SHILD by Barton, both the work meals and the coffee were the best. But now, the late-night work meal has become a simple sandwich, and the coffee is the kind that is instant in a bag. Sometimes, even the application for funds is greatly discounted. It is clear that SHILD can apply for a large sum of money from the World Security Council every year. But Nick Fury is getting more and more stingy. Even the dinners and breakfasts I make for Wanda and Pietro will enrich the food according to the body they need now. But SHILD's late-night work meal is just a few sandwiches. Can you believe it?" Listening to Natasha Romanoff's complaints, Su Che didn't speak. Natasha Romanoff's complaints should correspond to the fact that Nick Fury embezzled the money and is building a moon base. This is not a small project, and it cannot be known to too many people. That's why Natasha Romanoff feels that Nick Fury is getting more and more stingy. How are Wanda and Pietro doing now? As if chatting, Su Che intentionally or unintentionally asked about Wanda and Pietro's current living conditions. Although I know that the reason why Wanda and Pietro appeared in New York was that they were adopted by the widow's sister and became their guardians. A large reason is caused by the stories I compiled in my diary. But even so, Su Che had to pretend not to know and then asked Natasha Romanoff inadvertently. Turning her head to look at Su Che, Natasha Romanoff smiled. "It's okay. Although these 2 little guys are only 14 years old, they still have a trace of hostility in their hearts. But it may have something to do with their experience. But it doesn't matter. As the warm daily life gradually fills up the vacancy in their hearts, I believe they will become better. Wanda is still relatively well-behaved, and her academic performance is pretty good. As for Pietro, he has a lot of ideas. Although his grades are not very good, his athletic ability is not bad." Having said that, Natasha Romanoff turned her head to look at Su Che and said with a smile, "Wanda and Pietro will have their birthdays in a few days. As the guardian sister, I have to make some preparations. The 2 little ones haven't had a birthday since their parents passed away. So, since I am their guardian and their elder sister now, then this kind of thing should naturally be done by me." Before Natasha Romanoff could finish speaking, the SHILD staff, sitting in the chairs in front, were in charge of monitoring the whole city through dozens of screens. Immediately said, "Sir, something unusual happened." Hearing what the staff said, Natasha Romanoff and Su Che looked at each other. He immediately walked to the monitor. Chapter 49. Nick Fury doesn't even want his face. "Sir, according to surveillance, riots broke out on 5th Avenue, Brooklyn, Queens, and Bronx at almost the same time. Look at the situation displayed on the monitor." The person in charge of monitoring quickly reported to Natasha Romanoff. "The people who attacked the jewelry store clashed with some guards and even gang members. In addition, sir, these attackers are very fast, and they escaped almost immediately after they succeeded. And based on the escape routes they chose from all directions, we simulated an attacker's final location." With that said, the person in charge of monitoring directly called up a holographic roadmap. On the roadmap, the red dot symbolizing the attacker at this moment is rushing towards the same target at an extremely fast speed. Look at the simulated location based on the attacker's escape route. Natasha Romanoff immediately turned to look at Su Che. "Although Nick is getting more and more stingy now, I think he should be willing to give compensation if there is an accidental damage." Yes, according to the direction in which those red dots on the hologram are gathering. Impressively, it is the direction of Su Che's Teowalan Cafe, well across from Stark Industries. Seeing that the final location was determined, Su Che's eyes were concentrated, and a trace of murderousness exuded from his body. Olivia Temple should come here again. This time, I will completely eliminate him here. Then I'll go dry. Feeling the murderous aura emanating from Su Che, Natasha Romanoff immediately stood up and prepared to act. Too slow. Walking out of the room with Natasha Romanoff, Su Che said in a deep voice, "Hold on to me." Although I don't know what Su Che wants to do. But Natasha Romanoff grabbed Su Che's arm without hesitation. Following Natasha Romanoff's movements, a cloud of white rose from under the two of them. Then the cloud and mist seemed to be solidified, and the two of them rose into the sky directly. In the air, as if the solid clouds soared up. Almost in the blink of an eye, a long pale blue water bridge appeared in front of the two of them. Condensed clouds and mist fell on the water bridge, and the light blue water bridge flowed extremely fast in the next second. The powerful kinetic energy generated by the extremely fast-flowing water bridge made the two of them fly towards the Teotihuacan Cafe. If it wasn't for Natasha Romanoff holding Su Che's arm, Su Che's waist would also be held by Su Che. Then the huge amounts of inertia may directly make Natasha Romanoff fall backwards from the air. Are all your abilities so convenient? In the air, experience the water bridge flowing under your feet as if it were real. That feeling is as novel as gliding on ice at extreme speed. Natasha Romanoff ignored the gust of wind whizzing past her ears and then said to Su Che, "If I had your kind of ability, then I wouldn't even need to fly a Quinjet fighter jet for missions in the future." Inside SHIELD. Look at the pictures sent back from the SHIELD satellite in space. Nick Fury had a serious expression, but Maria Hill said, "This ability is really convenient. If every one of our SHIELD agents knows this ability, then the money left over from the annual budget alone is enough to add a few important parts to our moon base." Listening to Hill's banter, Nick Fury looked into the frame. The water bridge flowing in front of the two of them continued to appear out of thin air, as if a passage had been opened in the air. Nick Fury said in a deep voice, "Has Ross been notified?" The notice has been issued. Although it is not from a department, Ross will obviously not send people from the military to make trouble. At the same time, the police department has also communicated in the name of S.H.I.E.L.D. At least until the matter is over. Those people will not attack rashly for no reason. Having said that, Maria Hill looked at Nick Fury and said, "But even though it's already 10 o'clock in the evening, there are still many people and vehicles on the street. So if there is no accident, this big event should be recorded. When these people face the danger of sudden changes and choose to call the police as soon as possible, if there are no National Guards and people from the police station at the scene. Nick, I fear they will face public accountability after the fact." Hearing Hill's words, Nick Fury gave her a non-committal look. They were held accountable. What does it have to do with us SHIELD? Although we took the initiative to communicate with them about this matter, SHIELD, so that they don't have to intervene. However, if the pressure of public accountability is given to them, it will be given to them. Let's just stay invisible. Listen to what Nick Fury has said. Hill is used to it. Yeah, there's the pressure of public accountability on both sides of them. What does this have to do with us? SHIELD. Everyone is not in the same system. If there is a panic, someone must take the blame. Then if you don't take the blame, we will take the blame. What? SHIELD keeping them out? Yeah. How many people in the public know about the existence of SHIELD? Maybe people thought it was a department you deliberately made up to shirk responsibility. As for if something like this happens again in the future, will the two departments not cooperate? Just kidding. By the way, Nick, if Su Che's Peach Blossom Forest EAF is damaged in a fierce battle later, do we, SHIELD, need compensation? Looking at Nick Fury, Maria Hill asked. According to the data, Teotihuacan Cafe doesn't seem to have any insurance measures. Definitely need compensation. With a rare laugh, Nick Fury said, although the post-disaster reconstruction department has not been formally determined, it is just an empty shelf. But this is the first time that SHIELD's jurisdiction has faced a big event. In addition, Su Che is one of the targets we want to recruit, so we SHIELD have to show some responsibility. And how do we make money without compensation? Just pay according to the store's highest standard. You should remember this matter. Afterwards, Don't forget to apply for compensation from the World Security Council for the compensation amount of SHIELD. Still according to the previous rules, should SHIELD keep 90% of the compensation amount reported 10 times? Listening to Nick Fury, Maria Hill nodded. That's fine. Otherwise, every few days I would always forge weapons and equipment. The Quinjet fighter jets would be damaged in missions, and aerospace aircraft carrier maintenance, and the research and development costs of the dark matter research base. After a long time, the World Security Council will become suspicious. Well, as Nick Fury's right-hand man, for the money of the Security Council of the Underworld, Maria Hill has already done it extremely skillfully, who told her that she was sent by the World Security Council to supervise Nick Fury. Chapter 50 Doomsday. Wait, this superhero flew down with his arms around a woman? At the same time, the streets of Manhattan, although it is already past 10 o'clock in the evening, the streets are still full of people and traffic. Just as the pedestrians were enjoying the quiet night, the ground suddenly shook in the next second. Before everyone could react, the originally flat and wide road exploded and shattered with a boom. Immediately, a wave of heat gushed out from the ground. Dark red, magma-like things continuously sprang out of the hole and quickly began to corrode everything around. Then, a 3-meter-tall man with curved horns on his head, and his whole body was covered with dark red magma. A demon-like monster jumped out of the ground. This sudden scene frightened many people around, especially after seeing that demon-like thing in mythology jumping out from the ground. Some timid people were so scared that they hid in the corner and their legs were weak, while more people screamed and ran away in a panic. Oh my God! Inside the cafe. Seeing this scene, Selena subconsciously widened her eyes. Originally, she was on the day shift and didn't have to work here at night, but a waiter broke up with her because of something. I originally thought that the cafe would close at 11 o'clock at night. From 5 o'clock in the afternoon to 11 o'clock, without being busy during the day, plus the daytime salary, I can get 2 days' salary by myself. Unexpectedly, this situation happened to me now. God! He stared wide-eyed at the devil-like guy with horns on the street not far away. Selena felt that her legs were a little weak. The doomsday has come. The demons from hell that are said in the Bible have come to the world. The doomsday has come, but I haven't become the store manager yet. Look at the guy who seems to have magma flowing all over his body. The first thought in Selena's mind was that the doomsday was coming and the demons would recover. Immediately afterwards, there was an extremely strong unwillingness to become the manager of the coffee shop, especially watching this demon wielding a huge flaming chain. With just one blow, the cars on both sides of the road were smashed, and then there was a violent explosion, even after the glass of the coffee shop was shattered. Selena collapsed to the ground, her eyes full of despair. There were screams of fear and escape from outside. Selena felt that she was completely dead now, especially when I saw dozens of disgusting guys with terrifying appearances and long tongues sticking out of their mouths surrounding that demon. From time to time, you can still hear that monster-like creepy roar. Selena's tears of despair flowed down involuntarily. God! The end is coming. Just when Selena was full of helplessness, despair, and unwillingness to face death before becoming a store manager. In the sky, an extremely gorgeous light blue water bridge appeared out of thin air. Immediately, a superhero dressed in white battle armor, with a silver-white cloak on his shoulders and a savior with his feet on the clouds, descended from the sky with a woman in his arms. The moment it landed, the superhero with the white cloak on his shoulders waved his hand, and dozens of ice arrows emitting a cold light attacked the group of monsters. And those monsters surrounding the demon rushed towards the 2 people on the ground with long, terrifying, and disgusting mouthparts. Seeing this scene, Selena's originally desperate eyes exuded a look of hope at this moment. Wait, this superhero, who looks like a savior, fell from the sky with a woman in his arms? Inexplicably, seeing this scene, Selena even forgot her fear. An extremely weird idea appeared in my mind out of thin air. Is the current savior playing like this? As soon as this idea came out, Selena immediately drove it out. At the same time, he got up from the ground regardless of his weak legs and hurriedly dragged a little girl, and at the same time called the screaming and wailing customers in the store to hide behind the counter. There is the appearance of a savior from heaven, the superhero. Then people like myself can't die, right? Since you can't die, you must do your duty. This is the quality that a potential store manager should have. He dragged the little girl and ran blindly to hide behind the counter as he lost his mind because of his voice. Curled up like an ostrich, there are some praying customers. Selena quietly stretched out her head and looked outside. Never mind if the savior showed up with his arms around a woman. But he is really amazing. The ice arrows scattered casually pierced the necks of those monsters with long mouth parts. The whole person is like flowing water, calmly and continuously harvesting the lives of those monsters. Even the woman who was hugged by him just now was extremely sassy and kept attacking those monsters with 2 guns, etc. Why does that woman with long red hair look so familiar? Isn't that Natasha Romanoff, who used to work here part-time and quit, but has a very good relationship with the boss? Depend on seeing Natasha Romanoff holding 2 guns. She was like a heroic female warrior at the moment, constantly shooting at the monster. Selena's eyes widened. Unexpectedly, Natasha Romanoff, who is beautiful and has a hot body, it's so powerful, etc. She has a good relationship with her boss. So could the savior who fell from the sky with her arms around her be her boss? He stared curiously at the superhero in the silver moon cloak. Looking at him, he didn't know when a long sword made of pure ice appeared in his hand. But the appearance is a bit strange, although the figure is very similar, but it does not look like his own boss. Wait, my God! He actually cut off the head of a monster with 1 sword. Chapter 51. With all the power of water, everything surrenders. Sure enough, it's still that familiar ability. Just after Suche and Natasha Romanoff slaughtered the group of bewitched people, Olivia Temple, who was 3 meters tall, held a burning chain, and had devil horns on her head, stood there without moving. But suddenly looked at Suche and said, "Long time no see, my enemy in destiny. I never thought that you, who have changed another dimension, are still so stubborn. Why do you need to do these unnecessary resistance? The earth will eventually fall into destruction, no matter how you struggle, no matter how determined you are to resist. However, in front of my great master, who cannot directly call the gods by their names, your resistance will be futile after all." Listening to Olivia Temple's deep voice, the holy voice like praise, Suche lightly waved the blood stains on the frost sword. His gaze was like a torch, and his voice was unshakable like a rock. "I didn't expect you to be so loyal after so long. Don't you think this is still extremely embarrassing? Put away your bewitching words. Your spiritual power has no effect on me." After finishing speaking, Suche raised the frost sword and pointed it at Olivia's stand in front of him. "It's you. I can perceive that your strength has become extremely weak now. Why? Without the previous strength, you can only use this method of confusing people." As Suche's words fell, Olivia Temple's eyes suddenly burst into a light called hatred. That look seemed to want to tear Suche into pieces. This made Natasha Romanoff on the side see it very clearly. Holding 2 guns aimed at the devil-like guy in front of him, Natasha Romanoff is like listening to a conversation between 2 people. Well, although judging from the contents recorded in the diary, she already knew that Suche was a superhero from a parallel world. However, for what happened in that world? In other words, the matter related to Suche in that parallel world. Natasha Romanoff was quite curious, and she believes that even Nick Fury must be very curious. "If you hadn't stopped me again and again, as an envoy of God, how could I be punished by the great master of God? It even devoured more than 90% of my power." While speaking, Olivia Temple angrily waved the fiercely burning iron chain in her hand and directly knocked off the vehicles beside her. Boom! The blown car hit the opposite wall and exploded violently. And Olivia's stand, whose tone was full of anger and coldness. At this moment, he calmed down instead. "Although you stopped me again and again, preventing me from sacrificing this planet to my master. Even for this, I was punished by the master. But it doesn't matter. When my master, the great God who cannot be named directly, descends, The earth will eventually be reduced to dust. Kneel down, kneel in front of my great master, and declare your surrender to him. In this way, you will evolve from an ant to the master's envoy. Perhaps you will have the same status as me and Silver Shadow, and the great master will also grant you endless power and life. While he was speaking, an invisible energy that seemed to be able to control people's minds began to spread constantly. This is a kind of energy full of holiness and peace, but extremely majestic. It seems that this energy can shake people's reason. Feeling that this energy began to spread, Suche turned into an afterimage in an instant, leaped high with the frost sword in his hand, and stabbed Olivia Stan in the head. Following Suche's actions, Natasha Romanoff instantly raised his two guns and shot at Olivia Temple continuously. Boom! Bang, bang! Just with the bullet fired after hitting Olivia Temple. But it seems that even the armor that flows and surges like magma on his exterior cannot penetrate. He ignored Natasha Romanoff, who was shooting at him with two guns. Seeing Suche jumping high and stabbing towards his face with a long sword turned from frost, Olivia Temple roared angrily. "Damn it, stubborn ants!" While speaking, the fiercely burning chain, as thick as an adult's arm, directly attacked Suche. The moment the iron chain attacked Suche, a thick ice wall directly blocked the burning chain. At the same time, Suche, who was incapable of hitting a blow, relied on a physique that was twice as strong as the peak physical fitness of ordinary people. A heavy kick on Olivia Temple's body. Immediately, a backflip landed in a very handsome posture, and then supported the ground with one hand. Frozen, as Suche's indifferent voice sounded without any emotion. The next second, the cold air spread rapidly from Suche's hand supporting the ground. Almost in the blink of an eye, a layer of chill enveloped Olivia Temple. In an instant, a thick layer of ice rubbed against his legs. Damn ants! Her legs were sealed in ice, and Olivia Temple's eyes were red, and her expression was ferocious, struggling constantly, trying to break through the ice. At the same time, he swung the fiercely burning iron chain to attack Suche. Frozen lock, accompanied by Suche's changing and crossing fingers. In the next second, countless Jean Bleu water chains appeared out of thin air, tightly bound his limbs and torso from all directions, and could not move. Dive dragon! There was another cry, and an oriental dragon made of water rose up from behind Suche, roaring and rushed towards Olivia Temple, who was bound and unable to move. In an instant, it was directly slammed into the air, before Olivia Temple fell from the sky. This water dragon directly turned into a water prison and trapped it tightly in the middle. At this moment, Olivia Temple is constantly struggling with huge amounts of burning chains. But countless Jean Bleu's water bar locks tied it up and couldn't move. It is surrounded by a thick layer of water prison outside, and the cold air is still rising, constantly freezing it. Seeing this scene, a gleam flashed in Natasha Romanoff's eyes. But before she could speak, she saw Suche stretching out her hands, fingers constantly compressing and compressing. The water droplets in the palms of both hands also started to boil, and then bursts of crackling and crackling sounded like lightning. Although I don't know what Suche is going to do. But Natasha Romanoff could feel the murderous intent in Suche's eyes under the mask. It seems that Suche will never give up until he completely wipes out Olivia Stan in the air. Stand around Suche with two guns in hand to prevent Suche from being disturbed accidentally. Soon, Natasha Romanoff saw that the palm of Suche was crackling, and the water droplets that were as transparent as static electricity gradually condensed into a transparent solid like ice. Then it began to dissolve from an ice-like solid, and finally gradually turned into a black substance that solidified as a liquid. Sky curtain, accompanied by the formation of the black matter. With a sound of esper, the black matter rushed to Olivia Temple, who was trapped in the water prison and tied up. I saw the black substance passing through the water dungeon and through the ice layer. It wraps Olivia Temple layer by layer, like a Tarsus talisman. Lift, raising his hand suddenly. The next second, the water prison quickly flew towards the height of 10,000 meters. Seeing this scene take shape, Che breathed a sigh of relief, put down his hands, and turned his head to look at Natasha Romanoff. He asked with the utmost clarity, "How long has it been since you saw the splendid fireworks?" At this moment, Che's expression seemed very relaxed. But Natasha Romanoff doesn't think so. At least at this moment, she felt that she seemed to be able to see different meanings in Che's eyes. Chapter 52. A mutant fluid that can easily destroy a city. Che's eyes are complicated, at least according to Natasha Romanoff. It reminded her of the mentality she had when she and Hawkeye destroyed the Red House and blew up the Red House headquarters. In an instant, I felt relieved, and in an instant, I fulfilled my long-cherished wish for many years. But compared to himself at that time, Che's eyes at this moment are more complicated. Even apart from a trace of joy and expectation, there is also a trace of sadness. I should be happy. After all, I finally solved this enemy who has been entangled for more than 10 years. But what is the hope? As for the regret, it should be that the enemy and fate has been resolved. But he couldn't share this joy with his former close friends, members of the Avengers Alliance who were born and died together in parallel worlds. And as the only surviving Avenger in the parallel world, perhaps from this moment on, Che will no longer have familiar people. As someone who has been in contact with Che for so long, Natasha Romanoff believes in her own analysis. Well, I have to say that Natasha Romanoff really understood Che's complicated eyes. However, Natasha Romanoff's brain supplement direction was wrong. Olivia Temple, the old enemy shaped by Che's joy, was killed by herself. At the same time, Natasha Romanoff and Nick Fury saw this guy with their own eyes and believed in this guy and their own story. Even the trust value has increased a lot. What I hope is that after killing Olivia Temple, I will get the advanced version of Superman's body defense. With this reward, I finally don't have to worry about bullets, missiles, mushroom eggs, and the like. As for regret, if I want to get rewards, I'm afraid I have to continue to make up enemies in the future. At the very least, link these to Galactus. TSK. Well, under the condition of unequal cognition, Natasha Romanoff is indeed wrong. But it doesn't matter. Looking up at the sky, he saw Olivia stand flying upside down like a shooting star and still rushing towards the sky at a height of 10,000 meters. Natasha Romanoff asked with a smile, "It's been a long time since we've seen the splendid fireworks. After all, in our line of work, how lucky are we to have our personal time in life?" So, what is the substance that crackled from water droplets and finally turned into black? Looking at turning his head and asking himself, what is the black substance turned from water? Che put his arms on Natasha Romanoff's shoulders while looking up at the starry sky. When water is compressed by 100,000 atmospheres, it will become solid. That is high-density ice. This is a polymer of hydrogen and oxygen atoms formed after the hydrogen and oxygen bonds of water molecules are broken. When the pressure of water reaches 1 million atmospheres, warm and dense matter will appear, and nuclear fusion reactions are very likely to occur. The power of the explosion is enough to destroy a city. And that black stuff you just saw is metallic hydrogen that forms when water is compressed to 10 million atmospheres. Metallic hydrogen? Hearing what Che said, Natasha Romanoff, who was still looking up at the sky and waiting for firework, immediately looked at Che. Is that the kind of metallic hydrogen whose explosive power is 25 to 40 times that of TNT? Thinking of the crackling drops of water in Che's palm just now, plus what Che said just now. When the pressure is 1 million, the water is likely to undergo nuclear fusion, and its explosive force can easily destroy a city. Natasha Romanoff looked at Che's eyes. Shindu changed. Oh my god, I thought I was fighting alongside Che just now. Che is using his ability to subdue Olivia Temple. Unexpectedly, he almost completely razed New York to the ground just now. This is too for a moment. Natasha Romanoff felt that her thoughts were a little messy. Don't worry. Although those scientists want to compress the water to this extent, extremely harsh conditions are required. At least I haven't heard of it yet. That scientist and that top laboratory can create it. It's still relatively easy for me to handle though. So don't worry about me ruining New York in the process. You have to know that for this day, in order to prepare this surprise for Olivia Temple, I have prepared for a very long time. Looking at Natasha Romanoff's complex eyes, Su Che smiled and pointed to the sky. Okay, let's watch firework. After speaking, Su Che lightly snapped his fingers. In the next second, a rumbling explosion sounded from above the 10,000-meter-high sky. The visual effect brought by the explosion at a height of 10,000 meters is very shocking. At least, when countless people woke up by the explosion and looked up at the night sky, they could all enjoy the same brilliant fireworks. Even Natasha Romanoff, who had complicated eyes on Su Che at the moment. They all breathed a sigh of relief, let go of their thoughts, and raised their heads to look at the gorgeous fireworks. Although Natasha Romanoff didn't know, in fact, Su Che told Natasha Romanoff what he just said on purpose. Always deal with SHIELD gradually. Su Che knew that Natasha Romanoff would definitely report this matter to Nick Fury after returning home. So, go ahead and increase your status in Nick Fury's heart. Maybe it can also squeeze Nick Fury's wool and increase his trust in the diary. To be honest, Su Che really wants to know, after Nick Fury's trust value reaches over 90%, what new ability will I get? Inside SHIELD. Did you hear their conversation? Watching the video coming back from the SHIELD satellite. In Natasha Romanoff's wrist widow's bite, the real-time recording of task content and calls. Watching the violent explosion at an altitude of 10,000 meters. Maria Hill said softly, Su Che should have done it on purpose. Maybe, as he said, this metal hydrogen formed by the compression of water was specially prepared for Olivia Temple. After all, the nuclear fusion caused by compressing water into warm and thick matter is too powerful. Maybe the whole New York will be blown up. He also knows this, so Su will continue to compress. Forming it into metallic hydrogen is a powerful substance that won't easily destroy a city. Hearing Hill's words, Nick Fury said in a deep voice, You mean SHIELD must be dispatched? Su Che is too dangerous. Is it already a humanoid destruction weapon? No. I mean, he can use water compression to create metallic hydrogen. Looking at Nick Fury, Maria Hill said seriously, Metallic hydrogen, a room-temperature superconductor, as far as I know, requires extremely high conditions to create. At least none of the top scientific laboratories have overcome this problem. So, what a good condition. We can spend 10 million or even 20 to 30 million to buy 1 gram of metal hydrogen from Su Che. Then turn around and declare the purchase funds to the World Security Council. Even if you apply for more than 100 million funds at that time, isn't that what we say? After all, this kind of thing has no market and price, and the value is set by us. This is much better than the damage of those Quinjet fighter jets and the reason for the maintenance of aerospace carriers. Listening to Hill's words, Nick Fury's only remaining eye lit up. Yes, I was so preoccupied with thinking about how terrifying Su Che's current strength is that I forgot that I could use this matter to pluck the wool of the World Security Council. TSK, now the moon base still needs a lot of money. It would be a pity if such a good opportunity was missed. Chapter 53. The Sixth Diary. Question. What is the first thing to do after getting the perfect version of Superman's body? Answer. It is very novel, and I want to test whether it is as powerful as the system said. Looking at the fruit knife, stabbing hard, the tip of the knife collapsed and the blade was a little tired, but it didn't leave any scars, not even white spots. Satisfied, Su Che threw the fruit knife into the trash can. Finally, there is a skill that can save lives. Although I really want to buy a gun and shoot myself in the head. But this idea is only an idea after all. Sitting on the sofa, watching the pictures reported on TV. Although the incident happened after 10 o'clock in the evening, and it is almost 12 o'clock now, the whole process was recorded by many people with their mobile phones. Looking at the broadcast on the news, and even the popularity of this matter on the internet, it once surpassed the kidnapping of Tony Stark. Well, counting the time since he was kidnapped, he should be back soon. Turn off the TV, and then open the editing page of the system. At this moment, the system compilation page is displayed. After what happened tonight, Natasha Romanoff's trust value has reached 81%. Even Nick Fury's trust value has reached 70%. It's not easy. You know, that's Nick Fury, but it's good. at least the widow's sister's trust value will increase by 9%. You can get 10 times the peak physical fitness of ordinary people. Although I got the perfect version of the defensive version of Superman's body. But the reward brought by the widow's sister can improve myself in various aspects such as speed, strength, and agility. This is exactly what I need. As for Nick Fury, I don't know what kind of reward this product can bring me. By the way, the system I killed the Olivia Stan I created, and there is another reward that can increase the number of diary holders, right? Suddenly remembered. Except for the reward of the perfect version of Superman's body. You can also add a quota reward for diary holders. Su Che asked the system directly, should I choose a black gold diary holder at random, or can I designate a person to choose? The system defaults to the random selection of the number of black gold diary holders. Choose immediately. Seeing the answer given by the system, Su Che nodded. In other words, whether it's an Avengers Alliance superhero like Widow's sister and Wanda, or someone related to the Avengers Alliance like Nick Fury. They are all randomly selected by the system. What about the supervillains in the Marvel world? Are these villains among the places? System. Randomly select one of the requirements for the holder of the Black Gold Diary, who has participated in or recorded major events in the Marvel movie universe. That is to say, as long as it is a major event that appears in a Marvel movie, whether it is a decent or a supervillain, it is possible to become the next holder of the Black Gold Diary, right? Facing the system's answer, Su Che nodded. That range is huge. The next holder of the Black Gold Diary may be Captain Marvel Carol, or Strange, who has not yet become the Supreme Mage. It may be the frozen Captain America, or Tony Stark, who has not yet escaped, Thor with the hammer, etc. Definitely, it may also be Thanos, the goddess of death Hela. There's even the possibility of Dark Lord Dormammu, Malekith, chief of the Dark Elves. System. May I ask if the host has enabled the increase of the number of Black Gold Diary holders? Not open yet. Facing the system inquiry, Su Che has not been opened yet. Instead, he chose to increase the widow's sister's trust value to more than 90%. Before the next quota of Black Gold Diary holders is determined, the trust value of the widow's sister must be fully filled. In this way, I can concentrate on brushing the trust value of Nick Fury and the next Black Gold Diary holder. Open the diary compilation page. Su Che recalled the way the widow's sister looked at her just after the war ended. Immediately began to compile up. 3 streets away, Natasha Romanoff came out of the bathroom and changed into pajamas. While wiping his hair, he came to the sofa and opened a can of beer, and at the same time took out the Black Gold Diary. After the battle tonight, I stayed up all the time, waiting for my Wanda and Pietro to rest. Another briefing with Nick Fury before a chance to unwind with a beer after a shower. According to Su Che's identity, he finally solved his old enemy Olivia Temple in this parallel world. Then there will definitely be some emotions in my heart. It's like how I couldn't calm down for a long time after my mission in Budapest was over. Although, the update frequency of Su Che's diary is not high, and only 5 diaries have been updated in 4 months. But Natasha Romanoff knows that Su Che's 6th diary will definitely be updated tonight. Well, I'm afraid Nick Fury has absolutely no rest now, and is also waiting for the update of the diary. Really? Flipping through the diary, Natasha Romanoff soon discovered that there was a blank page after the end of the 5th diary. The 6th diary has been updated. 1. Knock back again and again, knocking it back to another dimension again and again. Finally today, in another parallel world more than 10 years later, Olivia Temple, the old enemy of fate, was truly resolved. It's just, except for a little bit of relief, I'm not as excited and happy as I imagined. In the past, we defeated the villains who threatened the Earth, and in the past, we won victory after victory. Everyone always gets together to throw a party. Tony provides the venue, and Thor holds the wine he stole from his daddy Curry. Steve claims to drink 1 cup after another. Because of the serum, he claims not to be drunk, and Natasha Romanoff will also be a guest bartender. Barton talks about arranging a farm for his wife and children with the help of Nick Fury, and Dr. Banner will look at him enviously. Sometimes when the atmosphere is up, Thor will deliberately break a cup, saying that this is Asgard's highest appreciation for fine wine. At this time, everyone will boo and generally dislike Thor. Everything is so happy The whole party is full of laughter. But tonight, I can only hold a glass of wine, looking at the night alone and remembering everything. Actually, it's okay. Nothing is unacceptable. After all, things have already happened. I just missed them a little bit. Chapter 54, Nick Fury's Social Death. That's not a common cat. Calculating the time, Tony Stark should be back soon after being kidnapped. The curtain of this world will also be slowly opened. After coming back this time, his whole body will undergo earth-shaking changes. Although he still has that seemingly cynical character, he already knows the fragility of life. It doesn't matter if it shuts down the Stark industry afterwards, or carries mushroom eggs into outer space to blow up the Chitauri battleship. After all this time, he is truly integrated into the big family of the Avengers Alliance. The birth of a superhero cannot escape suffering and experience. Although I don't believe it, I also hate this sentence. Praise suffering, praising suffering. Thinking that suffering can make people grow up, I totally disagree with it. Although, whether it is a member of the first-generation Avengers Alliance or a member of the second-generation Avengers Alliance, it seems to be the case. Well, perhaps Sue-Ing should promote Selena as store manager. After all, in tonight's battle, although Selena was very scared, she still knew how to perform her duties and pull customers into the counter. Sitting on the couch with a can of beer, looking at the writing in the black gold diary, the corners of Natasha Romanoff's mouth raised unconsciously. From missing those partners who lived and died together in the past, I miss the time when those people were together. Then shift to the kidnapped Tony Stark is about to return. Then the topic mentioned the matter of promoting Selena to the store manager. Well, this kind of leaping thinking is very consistent with the entanglement that has lasted for more than 10 years. The end result is the mentality after this fight. It was like after he blew up the Red House by himself. The first thought was not to be finally relieved and to relax. It's like asking Barton to take himself to a good meal and then complain about SHILDS food at the table. Typical symptoms after a long period of psychological depression ends. Inside S.H.I.E.L.D. looking at the contents of Suche's diary. Nick Fury picked up a cup of coffee and took a sip with a smile. Just looking at what was written in the diary. When Suche missed the Avengers of his world, Nick Fury was still a little worried. But soon looking at the jumping thinking in the diary, he let go of his worries. Nick Fury attaches great importance to Suche. It's just that soon, Nick Fury can't laugh anymore. Speaking of promoting Selena to store manager, I suddenly thought of one thing. During the battle tonight, all the glass in Teowalan Cafe was broken, and I don't know if SHIELD will pay compensation. I think Nick Fury should be compensated. After all, if he is not willing to pay the money, then I will tell them what happened to Nick Fury's broken eye under the blindfold after the establishment of the Avengers Alliance in this world. And then through them, spread the news in S.H.I.E.L.D. Maybe in this way, everyone will understand why SHIELD has no explicit regulations, but it prohibits keeping cats. After all, the words exuded by a superhero team like Avengers are quite trustworthy. Puff. Nick Fury, who is leisurely drinking coffee, after seeing the contents of the diary. The coffee spurted out of his mouth. Fortunately, the reaction was very quick, and the black gold diary was removed immediately after the coffee was sprayed out. Otherwise, the spit-out coffee will stain the pages of the black gold diary. Ahem. While coughing, he wiped away the spouted coffee. Nick Fury looked at the contents recorded in the diary. Damn, it's unbelievable. How did he know such a very secret thing? You know, I kept talking about this broken eye when I was talking to the outside world. It was destroyed because of a dangerous mission, or because of being betrayed by the most trusted person. How did he know that this eye was blinded by a cat? Ba ba ba. And is that a cat? That's the Yuan Devourer. The Yuan Devourer that even Tesseract can devour. How could I have been scratched by a common cat? In addition, the holder of the Black Gold Diary is not only myself, but also Natasha Romanoff and Wanda. Damn it. After these two people read this diary again, don't you think that your eyes were scratched by a common cat? Looking at the sentence in the diary, the reason why SHIELD does not allow cats. Nick Fury's state of mind suddenly broke down in a rare way. Damn it, if Natasha Romanoff and Wanda got it wrong, especially Natasha Romanoff, then the image I had created in the past collapsed in an instant. You know, my image has always been the king of agents, ruthless and ruthless, and I maintain absolute confidence in everything. There are countless cards in the hole, and they are scheming. But, thinking of Natasha Romanoff and the rest of the Avengers Alliance, including all the members of S.H.I.E.L.D., everyone knew that the director in their hearts had been blinded by a cat. The scene where I couldn't help but hide behind my back at the end. Nick Fury couldn't help but patted his head. Damn it, who told Suche this news? Why does he know this kind of thing? Who exactly told him? You can't be yourself in the parallel world. Thinking about it this way, Nick Fury inexplicably felt that it made sense. After all, apart from this reason, there seems to be no other reason why Sue knew about this matter. Thinking of this, Nick Fury leaned on the chair and couldn't calm down for a long time. No. Is the self in the parallel world an idiot? To recruit Avengers Alliance members to form a superhero team. Do you really dare to say anything? Don't even let this kind of lethal thing go? Bah. How can people do this? How can a person be like this? One cannot. At least not should. Really? I don't even want my face. Thinking about it, Nick Fury sighed. Now, it's too late to say anything. This secret has already been known. You can't kill Suche, Natasha Romanoff, Wanda just because of this shameful secret. Mayor Falk thought that this secret was well protected. Forget it. Let's pay more compensation. Thinking about it, Nick Fury immediately picked up the phone and dialed out. The call had just been connected, and before the people over there could respond, Nick Fury said directly, 3 hours. I only give you 3 hours. Within 3 hours, the glass of the Peach Blossom Forest Cafe opposite Stark Industry must be installed. It is absolutely not allowed to disturb their normal opening tomorrow. Without waiting for a reply, Nick Fury hung up the phone directly. Well, how do you tell Natasha Romanoff about this, so that she can't believe that she was blinded by a cat? Pooh, that's not a common cat at all. Chapter 55 Peepo, don't forget to bring 2 cheeseburgers. Next morning, Selena, please bring me a cup of coffee. Thank you. When I came to the counter, I asked Selena for a cup of coffee. Pepper Potts came to Suche with coffee. Good morning, Mr. Superman who likes to bask in the sun. Good morning, Ms. Pepper in a good mood. Seeing Pabwa greet him happily, Suche replied with a smile. It's getting better today. Did something happy happen? There's news from Tony. He's heading here on Colonel Rhodes' plane, and he'll arrive in New York in 2 hours. While talking, Pabwa sat opposite Suche. Thank God, Tony finally returned safely. By the way, Sue, you saw the news about what happened last night, right? Putting down his coffee, Pabwa said to Suche with great vigor. Imai, at around 10 o'clock last night, a demon more than 3 meters high sprang out from the ground, with magma and horns all over his body. Holy shit, this is so bad, it's like the end of the world as mentioned in the Bible. At that time, the whole street was cracked, and then the pedestrians on the street ran away screaming, and the passing vehicles were easily smashed by the demon holding the burning chain. Seeing Pabwa's excited expression, he danced and talked about what happened last night. Suche picked up his coffee and said with a smile, I was also on the internet this morning and saw something about what happened last night. But I always feel a little fake. It seems to be made by special effects. I came here to take a look this morning and found that the collapsed ground was intact, and the broken glass in my coffee shop in the video is also intact. If it wasn't for Selena's night shift here last night, I doubt all this is true. Speaking of this, Suche spread his hands. After all this is simply too unbelievable, isn't it? Who says it's not? Hearing Suche's words, Pabwa nodded in agreement. Yes, it feels like a story in a myth has been moved into reality. Fortunately, when everyone was panicking last night, 2 superheroes fell from the sky. One is wearing a silver-white battle suit, like a knight coming out of the moon. The other one is a woman with long red hair. Speaking of this, Pabwa said with some regret, Unfortunately, I didn't see the faces of these 2 people clearly. Someone took a picture of it online, but it seems that just after it was posted online, the woman's face was covered by a mosaic. I tried to use computer technology to remove the covered mosaic, and found that it was impossible. Picking up the coffee and taking a sip, Pabwa said seriously to Suche, I never thought that in our world, there really is that kind of superhuman being silently guarding the earth. Man, This reminds me of Steve Rogers back in the day. However, these two people are obviously more powerful than that demon from hell, especially the Silver Moon Knight. He directly used his ability to throw the demon to a height of 10,000 meters, and then directly blew it up. Silver Moon Knight? Listen to Peepo's nickname. Su-Che was slightly taken aback. When did I have an extra nickname of Silver Moon Knight? But before I traveled here, I had heard about the Moonlight Knight. That's right, Silver Moon Knight. That's the nickname those people on the internet gave to that superhero. Don't you think that superhero, who fell from the sky and wore a silver-white battlesuit cloak, is very suitable for the handsome nickname of Silver Moon Knight? Looking at Su-Che, Peepo explained with a smile. In a counter not far away, Selena is in a great mood at this moment. Although I was a little scared last night, but because he performed very well last night, the boss upgraded himself to be the manager of this coffee shop this morning. Finally got what I wanted. My old lady finally became the manager of this coffee shop. Looking at everything in the store with admiration. Needless to say, after becoming a store manager and when I was a waiter, my field of vision is different. But listen to the discussions of these customers in the coffee shop. There was even a discussion between the boss and that Pepper Potts lady. Others don't know, but Selena knows it very well. The woman with the wine and red hair that fell from the sky last night was definitely Natasha Romanoff. I can see it clearly. As for the Silver Moon Knight rumored on the internet, the more you look at your figure, the more you feel like your boss. Although there is no evidence, it feels like the Silver Moon Knight is definitely his boss. Believe in a woman's sixth sense. Well, even if she knew, Selena would never reveal it. Even if the newspaper office has already issued a price of 1,000 yuan for a message. Selena also decided that she would never disclose the news of her boss and Natasha Romanoff. After all, after becoming the store manager, his weekly salary became $500. And there are some extra commissions every month. Which one is more and which one is less? Selena is very clear about it. With a weekly salary of 500 knives plus a monthly commission. In this way, I can afford my sister's college expenses in the near future. Sheng's younger sister will go to school in debt like other college students, and she will be burdened with huge debts just after she came out of the university campus. TSK, this kind of life is simply beautiful sizzle. The time is almost up. After chatting with Su-Che for a while, Peibo glanced at his watch. Then he got up and smiled at Su-Che. I have to go to the airport early to pick up Tony. So, Sue, let's talk next time. Good. He smiled and nodded at Peepo, watching her get up and prepare to leave. Su-Che suddenly said, Peepo, what's wrong? Hearing Su-Che calling himself, Peibo turned to Su-Che and asked with a smile. I remember bringing 2 cheeseburgers on the road. I was kidnapped for 3 months, and I think Mr. Tony Stark will miss it very much. Hearing what Su-Che said, Peibo thought for a while, and then the corner of his mouth raised. I'd almost forget if you didn't tell me. Thank you, Mr. Superman. You're welcome, Ms. Pepper. Watching Peibo turn and leave, he went to the nearby burger shop to buy a cheeseburger to take with him. Su-Che sat on the chair and then looked at the TV hanging in the coffee shop, which was broadcasting at the moment. The news about the appearance of the demon last night. The superhero defeated the demon and successfully protected the Earth. Silver Moon Knight. This nickname feels pretty good. Chapter 56. Tony, who came back, feels like he has been robbed. Inside the private airport blocked by the military. Carrying the handbag containing the cheeseburger. Peepo stood there emotionally at the moment. It has been 3 months. It has been 3 months since he was attacked and kidnapped in the Middle East desert. During this period, various emotions such as anxiety, sadness, and disappointment enveloped me constantly. Although I used to be Tony's assistant, not only to help him deal with all kinds of garbage in life. Even some extremely trivial things need to be kept in mind by yourself. Even if it is a birthday, it must be dominated by Tony's daily life in advance. However, I still hope that Tony can come back safely. Although the outside world always thinks that Tony Stark is a selfish, arrogant BD. But as his life assistant, Peepo knew very well. Compared with those comments, Tony is more like a child who can't grow up. Thank God for Tony's safe return. I can't even imagine what kind of pain and torture Tony has suffered during these 3 months. Actually, you can sit in the car and wait. After all, it will take some time for Tony to come back. Happy looked at Peepo, who was standing there with a hamburger handbag, and persuaded him. Besides, it's very windy today. It does not matter. Hearing Happy's persuasion, Peepo's eyes were slightly red, but he smiled and shook his head. I was attacked and kidnapped for 3 months. Maybe he will miss us so much during this time. So I think when Tony comes back, he must be the first.
No more novels? Take part in the voting. The most requested novels and those with the most likes will be chosen for publication on euroaudiobooks.com. There, I can upload as much as I want without the risk of receiving a strike. Our 18 novels and other content that exceed what is morally acceptable are only published on Patreon or the free novels page. Remember, the site is funded by donations on Ko-fi and Patreon memberships.